senang. Hujung minggu malam kena kerja, malam ada event, hujung minggu ada event, cuti ada event. Siapa yang datang ni?
Kau dah save, duduk lah.
Kau jangan, no, I
Sebab
think.
kau dah cakap sama ada semua. And we can this is our life. We are alive. We are doing it live. YouTube lagi. Boleh tak? Boleh tak? Boleh je. Nanti kita in between buat ni.
Kau silapkan aku punya part panjang gila.
Aku nak membantu kau. Dia pangkat 48.
Tak payah. No, I think you can put it here. A part of having it is yours. You can put it here. Yes, you can.
Semalam ni dia kata mesti social distancing dia semalam.
Kau tak tahu ni page kau ni.
Tengoklah mana-mana.
Tapi kita kata we also on YouTube kan. Kita macam apa tu dia kan?
UiTM. Sini.
Telefon Min. Yasmin Ashari. holding room ke kat luar tu ke, I tak nampak siapa. Dia tak tanya. I message minta confirmkan siapa yang hadir sebab kita takut kita sebut orang yang tak ada pula. Ini dekat tempat makan ke?
Kau telefon Syuaib ni. Syuaib yang jaga. Bukan jaga dia. Dia bilik VIP.
Patutnya benda ni aku tanya awam. Malas nak tanya dia, nanti aku bodoh dulu. Cik Shu, boleh tolong confirmkan dengan saya tak TNC mana yang hadir? Oh, tengah dua okay, tak apalah, tak apa. Alright, okay. Cik Shu jangan ikut asal. Dia tak tahu.
Tak apalah. Pasal ni nak call kau tadi.
Dr. Fazil tadi. So dia seorang je, TNC seorang je. Accompanied by dekan je lah, accompanied by dekan. Prof Azhar dah sampai. Prof Azhar akan mengiring. Prof Azhar dengan dekan akan mengiring TNC. Confirm? Tak, confirm ke tak? I nak sampai. Ada orang lain tak yang akan mengiring ni? I nak confirmkan siapa yang mengiring ni. Tanya awang jap. Confirmkan. Confirm awang. Okey, baik. Announcing the arrival of Yang Berbahagia Technologies Dr. Haji Muhammad Kamal Haji Harun, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and International of UiTM, accompanied by Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Hajah Nur Aziah Haji alias Director of Academic Development UiTM, Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Zakia Ahmad, Dean of Faculty of Civil Engineering, and our distinguished guests of honor. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to Yang Berbahagia Professor Technologist Dr. Haji Muhammad Kamal Haji Harun, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and International of UiTM, Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Haja Nur Azia Haji Alias, Director of Academic Development UiTM, Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Zakia Ahmad, Dean of Faculty of Civil Engineering, Rectors and Deans, invited speakers, distinguished guests, Working Committee of Chat 2020, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizer, Faculty of Civil Engineering, would like to extend our warmest welcome to the Conference of Heads of Academic Department, Chat 2020.
In seeking for Allah's blessings for the event, therefore, we would like to invite Mr. Elmi Alif Azmi to lead the dua recitation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ila hadratin Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wabihi nasta'in. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi ajma'in. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin salatan tunjina biha min jami'il ahwali wal afat wa taqdilana biha jami'al hajat wa tutahhiruna biha min jami'is sayyiat wa tarfa'una biha innaka a'la darajat وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, hanya kepadamu ya Allah kami menadah tangan memanjatkan kesyukuran atas segala rahmat dan nikmat atas keberkatan yang Engkau berikan kepada kami ya Allah. Bersempena dengan majlis pada hari ini ya Allah, kami memohon inayah dan taufik-Mu. Kurniakanlah kesejahteraan, kebahagiaan dan kesihatan yang baik kepada kami ya Allah. Bukakanlah pintu hati kami ya Allah, lapangkanlah dada kami ya Allah, supaya kami dapat mengisi ilmu dan pengetahuan yang berguna untuk agama, bangsa dan negara ya Allah. Kami memohon kepadamu agar Engkau memberkati majlis yang kami lakukan pada hari ini ya Allah dengan limpahan rahmat-Mu. Semoga segala usaha yang kami lakukan dalam menjayakan majlis ini mendapat keredaan daripada-Mu ya Allah. Ya Allah, sesungguhnya kami berkumpul hari ini kerana-Mu ya Allah. Berkumpul untuk menimba ilmu, bertukar pendapat, menyumbang buah fikiran, menghubungkan silaturahmi dan memberikan sokongan ke arah meningkatkan lagi prestasi kami untuk universiti. Ya Allah, kami memohon kekuatan dan hadrat-Mu supaya kami yang hadir pada hari ini dapat melaksanakan kebajikan. Dengan kebajikan tersebut, maka kami akan membawanya kepada hari akhirat kelak ya Allah. Dan kami mohon kepadamu ya Allah perlindungan dengan Engkau daripada melakukan segala keburukan. Kami memohon kepadamu ya Allah agar menjauhi diri kami daripada penyakit sum'ah ya Allah, riya, takabbur. Ya Allah, kurniakanlah kepada kami kekayaan, ilmu pengetahuan dan hiasilah diri kami dengan sifat lemah dan lembut, serta muliakanlah kami dengan ketakwaan dan indahkanlah diri kami dengan kesihatan. Kau berkatilah pemimpin-pemimpin kami ya Allah agar mereka dapat memimpin dengan kebaikan, dapat memimpin dengan keadilan, dapat memimpin dengan sebaik-baiknya demi meningkatkan prestasi universiti ya Allah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jarad wajhikal azim min sultanik. Rabbana ighfir lana dhunubana wa liwalidina warhamhum kama rabbawna as-sighara. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Amin, amin ya rabbal alamin. Distinguished guests, I am Muhammad Khairul Kamaruddin.
And I am Anna Kartini Ahmad Lotfi. We are truly and deeply honored for your gracious acceptance in joining CHAT 2020 with the Faculty of Civil Engineering. The Conference of Heads of Academic Department has been introduced since 2013, where its main objective is to generate creative and innovative ideas in parallel to today's global education. CHAT is hoped to provide a platform for administrators, educators, and researchers to get together, open our minds, and discuss about current educational issues and the way to overcome these issues for the development of UiTM and our nation. Thus, the theme for this year's CHAT, Transforming Higher Education in the VUCA World. For your information, we have about 209 participants joining with us today, and we do hope that by the end of the day, all 209 participants would gain beneficial experience, knowledge, and effective solutions for a brighter UiTM.
Apart from having the series of dialogues, later today we are going to witness the launching of the Center for Innovative Delivery and Learning Development CIDL, and also the launching of the Implementation High-End TVET. Not only that, this event will be the platform for the award ceremony of UiTM ODL and also the University Academic Award Ceremony AAU.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now honored to invite our respected Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Academic and International of UiTM, Yang Berbahagia, Professor Technologist Dr. Haji Muhammad Kamal Haji Harun, to deliver his opening speech. Please welcome.
Terima kasih saudara dan saudari pengajar majlis. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Hajah Nur Aziah binti Haji Alias, the Director for Academic Development at UiTM. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zakiyah Ahmad, Dean of Faculty of Civil Engineering. Profesor Dr. Azizul Halim Yahya, pengarah ISEP, rakan-rakan, fellow speakers, friends and guests, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, salam sejahtera and a very good morning to all. My dear distinguished friends, guests, speakers and precious academicians, I'm indeed very honored and delighted to welcome you to the Conference of Heads of Academic Departments CHAT 2020 held at this prestigious venue of DATC today on the 10th of September 2020. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you, particularly the deans and rectors, who have taken your time off from your very busy schedule to be with us to basically follow and immerse yourself in the next agenda for UiTM in handling the VUCA world and how this is going to impact and relate to our delivery at higher education. Now, CHAT is an annual conference of heads of academic departments that acts as sharing platform on best institutional leadership practices in the world of education. This year's theme is Transforming Higher Quality Education in the VUCA World. The theme is indeed very timely with the current impact of the pandemic COVID-19 that has shaken the world across various sectors, and the education system has not been spared from the volatile effect of this pandemic. VUCA is an acronym for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's a concept coined by the military world actually, but have now proved its share of importance in the higher education system and perhaps all the industries involved within our activities. In the modern world, the higher education system faces VUCA situations due to globalization, technological advancements, demands from stakeholders, as well as rapidly changing education environment that ultimately creates a new normal in the education world. The new norm has been expedited and further exploited when the world is hit by pandemic COVID-19, which has forced the education system to be highly adaptable in order to be resilient and to stay relevant and credible within the VUCA environment. The career pathways of our students are no longer linear. We must respond wisely. Adaptability is about the powerful difference between adapting to cope and adapting to win. The VUCA condition calls for challenging questions that stimulate differing views and debates, and Shared 2020 would be the perfect avenue and platform to address such notion. Ladies and gentlemen, the 4 dialogue sessions lined up today will encourage probing of questions and solutions against the backdrop of leadership challenges in the VUCA world that necessitates continuous strategic adjustment and learning agility. Dialogue 1, entitled Transitioning to the New Normal in Higher Education, addresses the currently heavily mentioned term, which is new norm. The current circumstances with COVID-19 has forced us to dive fast and deep into needs of the 21st century education, and this session would encourage further investigation into this subject matter. The second dialogue on advancing learning and innovation in high-end TVET will discuss on the opportunities, challenges, and future developments that is drawn from the new thinking of innovative practices and solutions for high-end TVET as TVET emerged to be a key player in rejuvenating the future of skills development that connects economic, social, and environmental opportunities, subsequently contributing to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. The theme for the third dialogue, which is reinventing higher quality education through synergy, collaborative, and restructuring, explores the transformative notion of the higher education governance and management style. The fundamental aim of restructuring is to foster deep collaboration between faculties where synergy could be transpired through better integration as universities battle to be more responsive and flexible in overcoming the storms of VUCA conditions. The final dialogue, entitled A Collaborative Multidisciplinary Approach in Learning Society, would enlighten us on integrative curriculum, which primarily focuses on interdisciplinary, collaboration between different disciplines and diverse perspective that would lead us further into demonstrating greater creativity. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude and deep thanks towards the organizing committee from the Faculty of Civil Engineering. Can we give a round of applause for the faculty members, please? Thank you, Prof. Zakia and your team. Of course, assisted by the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and International Affairs, who have been working real hard in making this event a reality. Well done in pushing forward with this event amidst the current circumstances of COVID-19. To be quite honest, I'm quite skeptical for this year's COVID-19 meeting, Shared 2020 meeting because of the COVID-19. But Prof. Azia was insistent, and Alhamdulillah we have PKP yang dapat dilonggarkan because of the excellent job done by our government, ministry, KKM, the frontliners. We are able to be together today, and hopefully all SOPs are being observed for today's gathering. Yeah? I would also like to thank all of you for your presence and participation, particularly deans and rectors. Thank you again for being with us, and I hope Shared 2020 will be a successful and meaningful event for us to advance, further transforming the quality of higher education in the VUCA world. With that, ladies and gentlemen, dengan lafaz Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I declare the Conference of of Academic Departments or SHAD 2020 open. Sekian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Prof. Please remain on stage to officiate a Chat 2020. For that, we would like to call upon Yang Berbahagia, Dean of Faculty of Civil Engineering, Professor Dr. Zakia Ahmad, to be on stage to accompany the Deputy Vice Chancellor. The gimmick symbolizing the synergy collaborative in which the combined entity is more valuable than the sum of the parts in reinventing higher education in the VUCA world with the support of the strong structural governance behind it. Thank you once again, Yang Berbahagia, Professor Technologist Dr. Haji Muhammad Kamal Haji Harun, for the opening speech and for officiating Chat 2020. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please sit back and enjoy a special montage on Chat 2020.
We have another round of applause for the montage presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to have 4 facilitated dialogue sessions in reflect to our theme for this year chart, Transforming Higher Quality Education in the VUCA World. Each dialogue will be conducted by a moderator alongside the invited panels. And for you to know that we are now on live YouTube, so your faces can be seen in the live YouTube. Please smile all the way. Right? So it is now time for our first dialogue. Before we start, again, don't forget to log in into Padlet via the QR code provided on your table for the Q&A sessions. Distinguished guests, we are honored to call upon the moderator and panels of the first dialogue entitled Transitioning to the New Normal in Higher Education to come up on stage. Please welcome Professor Dr. Paramjit Singh Aperapar Singh, Professor, Faculty of Education, UiTM. With our first panel, our dear Professor T.S. Dr. Haji Muhammad Kamal Haji Harun, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and International, UiTM. And our second panel is IR Dr. Siti Hawa Hamzah, Director, Engineering Accreditation Department and Engineering Technology Accreditation Department, Board of Engineers, Malaysia. Please welcome. Prof. Paramjit, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, a very good morning to our panelists. We have it here today, Professor Dr. Haji Muhammad Kamal Haji Harun, our Deputy Vice Chancellor for Academic and International. We have with us Engineer Dr. Siti Hawa Hamzah, Director of Engineering Accreditation Department and Engineering Technology Accreditation Department, Board of Engineers Malaysia. A very good morning to all our tetamu kehormat. First of all, I would like to say a big thank you to the committee for giving this opportunity to chair this session as a moderator. I can see so many familiar faces here. I need to mention, I can see Prof. Azni here, who was my first dean. I need to mention that because when I came to the university, and she was our captain of our ship. Thank you very much, Prof. Azni. Okay, and also, go according to the priority list, my dean is here also. My former dean is here also. Dr. Nabila, Dr. Faiza, thank you very much. And also, my Datin Nur Razia alias is here also. I've been calling her all the while Datin Nur Razia. Okay, let's be serious now. Our first dialogue is transitioning to the new normal in higher education. What I will do, we will give each panel around 10 minutes to talk about this topic. Then there will be a question and answer session. Is it okay with both of you? Thank you. So first I would like to call upon our Deputy Vice Chancellor for about 10 to 15 minutes about this topic of transitioning to the new normal in higher education. Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Pamjit, and a very good morning to all. Thanks for this opportunity to share some of our thoughts on issues pertaining to higher education. Dr. Siti, Prof. Siti, very nice to meet you again. We are basically being confronted by a world that is non-predictable. And a lot of things change rather rapid, and we term it as VUCA, and it's quite volatile. As such, we do realize that the higher education sector is going to have to play a very key role in handling the issues that's impacting the people and the community. But I would like to take the attention of all of us on the statement that we used to say on the role and purpose of a university to start with. We know that the noble mission of a university is always about seeking knowledge. And more importantly, we have to preserve this knowledge that we found. And that is why research is there for us to seek new knowledge. And the teaching and publication is extremely crucial to ensure that the next generation of the people will acquire the knowledge correctly. There is also an expectation by the stakeholders, particularly where universities have to play a role in developing a nation building, developing a society, and these are the fundamental responsibility that's rested upon the universities. Now, as such, the individuals that we produce from the universities has to have the competency, have to have the attributes of this ability of shaping the minds and shaping the world. And this is a huge responsibility. And these are the individuals that will be basically handling the VUCA states, or perhaps the creators of the VUCA state, for all you know. So with that, as a university, we are very mindful of this, and we coined some 3-4 years ago an agenda for education, which we coined as Education 5.0. But really, let me go through the holistic goal of Education 5.0. It is not about the techniques, those are processes, those are ways for us to deliver education. But the real holistic goals of education is that we want our education system to produce individuals who can make up a responsible citizen. That's one. And we would also want to have an education system that enables the student and empowers the student or the graduates to lead responsibilities. We also want the student to be able to understand, navigate complexities, while at the same time making meaningful decisions. We also intend to have an education system that prepares the student to face the challenges and pressure of change, and an education system that upholds ethics, values, and appreciates collaboration, promotes mutual respect, negotiation, and act as a community. An education system that makes students understand, appreciate, and preserve the world for the next generation. These are some of the holistic goals that we have put across when we crafted the Education 5.0. And clearly from these goals, you could see that we are indeed talking about how could a responsible citizen shape or even handle the VUCA world that is inevitably impacting us. Okay? So, falling short of all this, we will basically create chaos, a generation that will not be able to handle the challenges, anticipating and react correctly. So within that holistic goal, there are certain framework that we think must be in place, a deep emphasis on values, principle, and purpose, develop thinking, intellectuality, and above all, wisdom, and encourage the discovery of learners' potential, their talent, and unleashing it. We also talk about technology as means to facilitate the goals. We emphasize trans and multidisciplinary to ensure that knowledge can be put in context, not acting alone, out of context. Experiential and reflection is one of the key ability that we want students to go through, because meaningful learning could only be done through reflections and also experience. And also coordinating and contextualizing knowledge, nurturing curiosity, and curating and creation. Now, I am very happy to see the way engineering team portrayed our Education 5.0. I was telling Prof. Azia, they did better than we tried to do it at HEA, because it sends a clear message of what needs to be done and how it should be done. But today, this morning, I would like to dwell on the holistic reasons and holistic purpose of Education 5.0. So, indeed, leaders of the university. Now, every time I talk about leaders of the university, I don't mean deans, deputy vice chancellors, or rectors. Leaders are each and every single academician who have a role in the faculty, who are handling students, who are teaching in the classes. You are indeed leaders because you're there, you will be a role model, there'll be followers that listen to your thinking and your thoughts, and you will be the one who basically shape the mind of the students who are going to face the reality of the world that's coming and impacting them. So it is so key that the elements that I mentioned in the holistic goals of Education 5.0 be understood, be dealt with, and be addressed. We do realize that apart from the knowledge, fundamental major that the students are gunning for when they come to the universities, an equally important part of the learning curriculum must embed the holistic goals and elements that I think we have just mentioned before. And with that, I think we will consciously create a delivery system that will check on the delivery of the elements that I've mentioned in the introduction that I've just talked about just now. So I think I'll stop there for a moment, Prof. Pamjit, and we'll pursue from there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Our guest of honor also, Dr. Siti. 10 minutes for you for your opening. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Indeed, it's a great pleasure to be back on this stage. Formerly duduk atas stage ni masa kita konvo kan. Anyhow, the new normal stand along with the accreditation department. So being from the Board of Engineers Malaysia now, we are looking into the practice of the new normal in the teaching, learning and assessment conducted by the programs. So before I directly jumped into that particular main issue, of which I think many of the engineering faculty would like to know how we move about, let me just inform for the benefit of everyone. EAC was formed in the year of 2000. And in the year of 2002, we became a provisional member of the International Engineering Alliance. And in 2009, we became the full signatory status in the Engineering Alliance under the Washington Accord, which currently has 21 member country, and the recent member just got in 2020 under the virtual meeting that we had from New Zealand is Costa Rica. Now, in 2015, we formed ETAC, that is the Engineering Technology Accreditation Council that would accredit program on engineering technology and also the diploma program, the diploma engineering program. And we became a provisional member in 2017. And within a year, based on the experience that we had with our Washington Accord journey, we became a full signatory member in 2018. So now we are the member of Sydney Accord, which now has 11 member countries plus 2 provisional. And we are also the full signatory member to the Dublin Accord, which has 9 member countries. So those programs, engineering program, engineering technology program, and diploma in engineering program that undergo accreditation with the Board of Engineers Malaysia can now work in the other countries mentioned. So that's the benefit of getting the accreditation from the Board of Engineers. So when I came in, taking the lead of the accreditation department was in April. So right after when I came back from Iceland, I was actually self-quarantined, but they have already given me an assignment, and we came up with the COVID-19 TLA guidelines. So it was basically a brainstorm session, and glad to mention here, Prof. Nolida from the Faculty of Electrical was also involved, and we came out with the COVID-19 guidelines. And in this particular guideline that was published on the 31st of March 2020, we emphasize on 5 main items. The first thing is the final year project, because final year project will require students to have laboratory work. Now, MCO will not allow students to get on campus. So how do we look at the new normal on how to address the laboratory work? Secondly, we look into the industrial training. Industrial training for the engineering program or for the WA signatory may not be that bad. It may not be that impacted. But those for the technology program that will require 24 weeks of industrial training. And similarly for the diploma program that may require 16 weeks of industrial training. These are impacted. And through my engagement session with most of the programs that we have, it was a busy task in trying to handle what can be done, what can be accepted, and most of all, the program are worried if the panel are going to charge them on concerns. So we have to address these issues. Thirdly, we look at the integrated design project, because some of the integrated design project for the mechanical, for the electrical, they have to build prototypes. So meaning they still have to go to the laboratory. How do we deal with these issues? We also have issue on our final exam. So suddenly everything changed to online final exam. Through one of my engagement session with university in Sabah and Sarawak, we don't want to mention the name of university, they were asking us, will multiple choice question be okay for a final exam, which will comprise 60% of the entire grade? Are we supposed to answer? Are we at the board supposed to answer that? See, when we dwell on that particular issue, the main issue as what is I think currently now still viral is the connectivity. Based on the interview session that we had with the lecturers in this particular university, and they have done a survey of which 35% of their students are unable to get proper connectivity. So how can the online examination take place? Even my daughter, who has to come back from London, would have to take her exam here, and the exam was given for a 4-hour duration. But the downloading time and the uploading of the paper was given within 24 hours. So it's only a 4-hour exam. So my daughter have to download the exam paper at 7 p.m. Malaysian time, and to re-upload the answers by 7 p.m. the next day. And that is only for a 4-hour exam. Can you imagine if our students in the Sabah and Sarawak area are not able of downloading those particular examination paper? And the reason for the question asking why or how can we deal it in terms of the multiple choice question is because when you want to upload pictures, when you want to upload diagrams, it will take a longer time. So connectivity will not be able to tackle that. So those are issues. And how do we handle that? from the accreditation point of view. We have to relook at how is the assessment being done, and we give that flexibility to the program or to the university to handle how best is your online assessment can take place. We do not want to prescribe because each program will have its own problem. Even the WA signatory to SA signatory to DA signatory will have their own problem. And in the recent engagement session that we have, there was an international symposium conducted by Bangladesh, and most of the full signatory members were on board and they shared the experiences of their accreditation process. And Singapore is moving forward with hybrid, where they will do half a day, practically half a day of a visit, but the remaining will be on virtual. So thanks to Zoom, Google Meet, and whatnot, that we can actually have this kind of virtual accreditation to be done. Now, at the Board of Engineers Malaysia, we are going to perform one virtual accreditation visit to IKM Bintulu. But trust me, the preparation is horrendous. It's a lot of preparation. And there's only to accredit one program. We have to have several sessions of meetings with IKM. We also have to have another session of meeting with our panel, and what to look for and what not to look for and how to look for and what are the documents that need to be given right beforehand, which we can actually do it physically, easily when we are at the physical accreditation. Now, moving forward, we are looking also at some other guidelines that is shared by other countries. So I've shared with you Singapore, and even in Japan, they are also going for virtual accreditation, and Thailand is also doing so. The reason being because we cannot delay our accreditation, and in Malaysia, we come up with a guideline where for all of the Washington Accord membership, that means for the engineering program, what we did is to give a 1-year blanket accreditation for 2020. So that ease up our burden by 27 programs. So we don't have to go and visit for 27 programs, but this 27 program will be visited in the following year. Now, we also have another option that we have allowed, as what I have already mentioned, in terms of the virtual accreditation that we are going to impart with IKM Bintulu. Because of the current situation in Sabah and Sarawak, we also have to do the same with UNIMAS, and another one just came in and with UMS. So I think probably from our end, we've started with one. We may look at the possibility of doing virtual accreditation, or maybe partly of, or probably I would call it as hybrid accreditation process in 2021, should we face with the problem that we could not find the vaccine until 2021. So all of the accreditation SOP that we already have imparted in the Board of Engineers Malaysia, which has been approved by the councils, will be valid until the end of this year. So come again 2021, we may relook at the SOP, whether we need to go back to all the physical accreditation visit, or we will continue with the hybrid. I think that will be for all now.
Okay, thank you. In fact, last night, since I was moderator for this one, I read the document of Guideline 005 from the engineering accreditation. So I wanted to know what guidelines were there. So as I was reading, one of the main things what caught my eye was, this was directly quote from the document 005. The program is expected to undertake precautionary measures in handling integrity issues.
Exactly.
Okay. Since February, March, April, and the findings recently says, the criticism about online learning not addressing equal access and also quality education is an issue of concern. So can you please comment on it? I will start from here because you raised that issue because it was from your document. So can you comment on this, how to overcome this? This is a global issue, not anyway, it's a global issue. How will you comment on the issue of measures in handling integrity issues? Why I'm telling that is because the literature, I read some journals yesterday, they says student CGPA has been inflated during this COVID. Student CGPAs has been inflated during this COVID. So is it because of COVID, their CGPA increases? So the effect of COVID on CGPA, so how do you overcome or address this issue? Thank you. Dr. Siti.
You are asking me a tough question. The reason being because from the accreditation point of view, we give that flexibility to the university. We do not want to prescribe. You may say that during my engagement session, some of the lecturers were saying that they will have to get the student to show the environment of where they are. And I think that is, to me, is quite, sorry for using this word, I think it's quite silly to do that. Because if you have like 100 students, how much time will you take to get all of the students to show around how is the environment of their examination place? And we are saying that you may control students through the face-to-face from the video that you are taking through their laptop. They also have their handphone to get connected with others. And do you know there is a rise of those who are actually providing answers to questions? They can easily just email back the questions that you have given them. Remember, as what I mentioned, that my daughter has to download the examination paper, and I asked, how does the university control? So said there is a pledge that she has to sign, and should there be any kind of plagiarism found in that particular answer script, the whole exam is nullified. To that extent. But do we really want to go to that extent? I'm not too sure whether the program really want to go to that extent. Whether we really want to nullify the whole exam. And when you nullify the whole exam, there is the lecturer who is involved, the students, and obviously your stakeholder, the parents, are going to scream. And it is the control of the university, it's the control of the program. So therefore, at Board of Engineers, we would like to know how you address the integrity issues. That is why you put it in here. So during this particular visit, the virtual visit, we expect the program to be very transparent with us, of mentioning how you go about in handling the integrity issues. And trust me, I understand, it is not really easy. Yeah, that's one thing though.
Prof. Muhammad Kamal, questions to you now. She's asking back to the university, how will you address this issue?
Very tough question. But yeah, we can take all the measures we want to check on whether the students are cheating, whether the grades are reflecting the knowledge that they have. But that's a key point I want to mention here. I think the build for integrity is not an overnight thing. When we talk about higher education, we must really push on the fact that we are promoting higher education, higher level thinking, higher order thinking. And to me, it's disastrous for us to produce graduates who have gone through the system of higher education, ended up cheating their way through the higher education. So there's a pure contradiction there. So that is why, again, within the context of our education 5.0 agenda, we would like to the new thing. It shouldn't be a new thing. It should be a continuous thing. That we must instill upon the student is amanah on learning. At the end of the day, who would be the best person to say that they are learning. If you cheat on a grade, we'll give you a grade that shows how well you cheated. That has to be made known to the students. And that is the very reason why we think that at the end of the day, the only person who can tell whether I'm learning, whether I deserve this grade, is the learners themselves. So shifting the responsibility of learning to the learners is perhaps one agenda that we have to embark on. Difficult it may sound, but it's the most logical thing that we have to do, isn't it? And this is going to have to be drawn out throughout the entire system. Assessment. Are you going to rest on the numerical grade figures to tell or to measure the knowledge level of the students? Is that the only way you're going to look at telling whether the students learn by saying that, oh, he got 86 upon 100, and therefore, what's the difference between a student who has got 86 and 85? For example, 80 makes an A, 79 makes an A minus. So the student with grade A is better than an A minus student, but the student who got A is actually scoring 80, and the one getting A minus is 79. Can that 1 point make a difference in telling, in saying what? Yeah. So my take is that even when it has to boil down to assessment, and the message that you have to send to the student is this: listen, you spend your money in the university, you spend your time in the university, and if you were to cheat while you are here, well, it will tell you that's what you got when you graduate. Will indicate to you how well you cheat. So, to me, learning is all about amanah in you. You have to be very honest. And can this be done? Where we have seen many countries who have embarked on this mission on telling the students that you better be responsible for your learning. That adab and amanah is critical because I'm sure you have seen these words. The best way to destroy a nation is not through war, but by producing people who indicated as if they know when actually they don't. If they cheated in examination, a doctor who went through all the examination and passed through cheating and let him handle a patient, then we'll see whether the patient will survive or not through this kind of experience or through the ways that he trained himself. So like it or not, educators, our responsibility is really to make the student aware of their responsibility in learning for their own good. There are universities who embark on it. They call it honor system, all sorts of system, and it has to be digested from at all level, from teaching and delivery right up to assessment. And I mean, it's a long shot. People may be saying, "Oh, Kamal, you are being very idealistic," but I think being ideal is the best reference point. If you were to steer away, you're steering away from the ideal. That's not too far. If you were to use a non-ideal as your reference point, when you steer away, you'll be really going all the way from the ideal. So, does it need effort? Yes, it does. Does it need real understanding among the educators and the students? Yes, it does. Is that what we have to do? If you are seriously want a generation who can handle VUCA, honesty, adab, and amanah in themselves, is one way we can handle. So that's what we embed in our Education 4.0 as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, that's the big issue, and it's a never-ending story. It will continue. We have to curb. We cannot diminish it, or we cannot solve it in an instant. Now, you see, changes takes place when there are perturbation. Changes take place when we are cornered. Changes take place as now when we are all forced to leave our comfort zone and go into ODR. Same as me also, I am a person of chalk and talk. I don't believe in online learning. I never believe, which I think a waste of time. However, as I was forced to do, now if you ask me you want to do online or chalk and talk, I think I'll be I'm telling the stage here, I am the old school of thought. I don't believe in online learning before. Because I was forced to come into this. Now I think online learning, I can accept around 85 to 90% now. Few issues to be settled. The challenges here now. So now for the leadership side, from the old normal to the new normal. Again, we have a new normal. If we have new normal, that means we must have the old normal also. What is that? I have no idea. Someone can take out the word new normal, so there must be an old normal also. From this transition from the old normal to new normal, what are some of the leadership challenges as we move forward? What are some lessons learned from last semester? We are now here and to carry forward for the next semester. Prof.
We all got forced into the ODL, quote unquote, as of March 18 onwards, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. I know Prof. Pamjit, he's my friend. He's a resistor of ODL at that time, but now he's a convert. He's a believer in ODL. When we are new, there's a lot of learning process. There were a lot of problems with the delivery approach because the mindset was the old normal and expecting to use that approach in the new normal. Students basically have to handle classes from 8 to 4 in the evening with 5 or 6 lecturers changing over the hour. Not to mention, lecturers are using one platform, Zoom, and the other one using Google Meet, the other one using Webex and all those things. So as far as the students concerned, I've got this timetable I have to follow. 8 to 9 I'm on Zoom, 9 to 10 I'm on Webex. And so, and the delivery was also made as though that they were in class, in the classes. But we got feedback from the student. We passed the feedback to the lecturers. We say these are the reactions of the students. So at the same time, we develop our own platform. We try as much as possible through ISAP, UiFuture, whose platform consumption has jumped, I don't know, almost 10, 15 times in terms of usage. Because the students address that we need consistency in the platform that's used by the lecturers. And we could hear a partial of your lectures at one moment and we lost you at the next moment. So lecturers ended up recording their lectures, package it and deliver to the students not on synchronous mode. On an asynchronous mode. Along the way, the lecturers are actually learning very fast on how to package, how to cut down, how to chunk their material to be given to students. And we at HEA do expect turmoil in at least the first 1-2 months. And we were fortunate because we have a longer period of learning, which is used to be 14 weeks. But it was extended to 22 weeks. So we anticipated that there is going to be a lot of learning curve that the lecturers and the students have to go through over the first 1 month at least. And hopefully things get better. And it did get better. So, and we didn't realize, I was just telling Prof. Zaka, Prof. Azia just now, Prof. Azni as well, we didn't realize that in 2 weeks we produced 10 circulars all talking about ODL. And it's all about after getting feedback, and we try to guide both students and lecturers in handling the issues. So these are among the issues that the students and the lecturers are facing. Next, it comes to assessment. So we said there'll be no one sitting assessment. I've got a unit called Bagian BPA, Bagian Peperiksaan, whose job is to handle question papers, print and distribute, basically live idle now because questions are no longer on papers, but they are being given on a continuous assessment approach. Okay, Prof, we do have issues where students are reproducing text from wherever they found, it's not from them, and reproducing it, but these are made known to the students. Lecturers are fast enough to catch that, hello, this is not yours originally, and this must be taken. So this continuous engagement between the students and the lecturers, reconstructing and being conveyed to us, and we have to reconstruct some policies on assessment, on delivery. I think it's a learning curve that we still are going through, and hopefully it gets better. So that's one thing I could share with you.
Thank you. I have a question from the audience. I'll try to merge the question with the question which I have for you, Dr. Siti. This Engineering Accreditation Council, they focus on the outcomes and the internal system developed to ensure the graduates are, by the way, I plagiarized it directly from the document, so I'm just reading directly, that the graduates are adequately prepared to enter the engineering profession. Now, how will your council guide the universities to meet the higher education learning quality during this transition process? Because the question asked here is, how do we incorporate flexibility to introduce innovative practice without compromising the quality in adapting into new normal in higher education? So this was a question posed by one of the participants here, and I merged with a question from your guidelines. So how will your side help to give guidelines to the universities to address this issue?
Okay, thanks, Prof. Thanks to the audience who asked the question. Now, I think in section 2.0 general, so it do mention in the third line, in view of the current situation, the purpose of accreditation shall not be compromised. We will not compromise. So, in the new normal, in the flexibility learning, in all the new normal assessment mode that the program engaged, what we will do as a panel to look at how do you moderate the processes, because you have internal QMS. Definitely, if as what Prof was saying, Prof Manjut was saying that in one of the research, it says that the CGPA rises during COVID, and you can see a student who is most of the time 2.5 students, suddenly now it becomes a 3.5. Right? So therefore, how does the internal QMS capture this particular issue? And under outcome-based education, it's always CQI, continual quality improvement. So how do you look about issues that you have before pandemic, during pandemic, and post-pandemic? And what we do at the Board of Engineers, for all programs that would have to undergo accreditation, will have a special section in their SAR addressing the TLA during the pandemic. So we will try to look at whether there is any shortcuts being made, or was there any issue of, if we look at the assessment method, all is done on MCQ, or the program is actually going all about on continuous assessment. I think going back on assessment, continuous assessment is a better off rather than to try to focus everything on the final exam. Under the new normal, I would think that it is best to look at our curriculum, how best can we address our assessment as PBL, problem-based learning, how can we address our assessment as case studies, rather than to focus on that 3 or 4 hours final exam. You may have the end of the semester exam to just test some component to address whether the student individually would be able to attain all the outcome. Other than that, throughout the semester, I believe it is easier and it is best to go on collaborative learning and assessment method, because that would actually at the end of the day be more fruitful rather than to look at the CGPA as what Prof. Kamal was saying. How good is 86 comparative to 85? And we do also have questions from our program owners of asking whether can we just give a pass and a fail? We do not give any direct answers and we do not prescribe this kind of solution to the program. At the end of the day, how does the industry look at your graduates? Are they willing to take those graduates with just a pass and a fail? Or they still would like to look at the grades? So down the line, it depends on what kind of industry that we are going to serve. Even I think in the medical program, they don't have the grading as what we do, the normal grading that we have, right? So each program would have to look at the situation according to how is the industry. And similarly, when we talk about the engineering program, the technologies program, and even the diploma program that requires a lot of practice-oriented component, they are not supposed to be tested as cognitive domain. And how well can you actually address the practice-oriented assessment? Prior to pandemic, they may be able to show their skill in the laboratory, but now they can't. So are we willing to accept whatever that they have done through a video presentation? Or is this through the simulation? Do you think that by asking them to do through a simulation, you are actually developing their cognitive domain or you're actually developing their psychomotor domain? At the end of the day, the program would have to answer. We do not give this is right, this is wrong. We will look at the end of the day, what is the outcome that had been attained by the student? And are they ready for the job market? And I think with what we have faced through now, it is also timely for the program to do a market survey on how well is the industry taking in your students that underwent online learning. That would be a great feedback to see whether what we are doing is fulfilling the industry's requirement.
Thank you. I think 2 points came out here is, number one is for the assessment is look at the CDL, CQI. Some of us are just doing for the sake of doing it. Now I think for program coordinators, this is especially from the engineering side. I have 15 minutes. Yes, sir. And the second one is just now about market survey, especially those students who will be graduating, and get a market survey from the industry, what are they looking for. Okay, I have a question from the participant here. It's for you, Prof. I'll read directly. How ready are we to move to the new norm in terms of flexible delivery and work from home arrangement? Question mark. It seems like most of the top, sorry, they lose, I have to talk directly. It seems like most of the top management of the university are still not comfortable and still do not trust their staff to work from home. Even most of the meetings are now back to physical meetings. It's a difficult question, but I have to tell this question for you, Prof.
Okay. If you ask me, how are we ready in entrusting all our staff and lecturers in executing the job, we have no issue on this trust matters. When cases crops up, yeah, we handle those cases. But we don't assume one case applies. It means that everybody has a problem. That's a very fundamental context that we're using. We have already had many meetings done online. We have already instructed that even if the students are in the campus, because of the safety measures that we need to take, students are learning on ODL mode. In other words, they don't have to be physically in the classroom. except for those students who requires hands-on needs to learn, like for example labs, and we allow the deans to devise a way on how to operationalize it by insisting on the SOPs that's required. So if you ask me whether or not can we not trust the lecturers, I will have to say, is there a choice at the moment? Right? So perhaps the lecturers will have to indicate as much as possible that yes, we can be trusted and have the least possible cases as much as possible. And this process will perhaps take some time because change are never easy, but will come a point where everybody are comfortable that things are being delivered, trust is not an issue, and that will become the new norm. And going from an old norm, as you mentioned, Prof. Amjid, to new norm is a never easy thing. Adaptability is a key thing, and perhaps the mutual trust need to be given by both the management and the staff. So if we can agree on that, I think that new norm can be achieved faster than we thought. Short answer. Hopefully.
Thank you. I know it's a difficult question. We always tend to blame the upper management when we point our fingers there, but the 9 fingers are pointing at us back. So here we have a sure. There's a question from you.
No, I'm asking a question to Prof. Kamal. Have you actually do any kind of a survey, random survey at least, to how many hours does your lecturer has to really take up in preparing for this kind of modules?
We do. Yes, we do. And we have a good picture of what the kind of tasks that the lecturers are taking in preparing their lesson for the student, especially on ODL mode. And we were fortunate, we have some foresight on this. We have got a system called My ATP, or ATP Amanah Tugas Pensyarah. We have incorporated in the Amanah Tugas hours allocated for preparation. In the past, it's all about lecturers delivering their lectures, but we have increased the hours allocated in ATP for preparation. So, and how do we get to know this? We constantly survey, because we know this is it's a change that people are going through, and change is never easy. So while change is taking place, or rather while change is being forced to take place, we constantly monitor the students and the lecturers' activities in adapting to the new change that is required on them. And
the reason why I ask, because in all of my engagement session with all the lecturers out there, when they are trying to clarify what is the alternative assessment that is acceptable by the Board of Engineers, most of them are saying that they are spending more hours probably in preparing, because if we were the normal chalkboard person, then you need to learn the technique and the module. Now, the second part is when they are dealing with the students. That is really the most taxing time. Because if you are trying to address integrity issues as well, so the lecturer has to really communicate with the student in a manner that they have to really deal with one situation, from one situation to another. And that is really another point that is really taking time. So it seems like as though they are working like round the clock in trying to get this thing done. Yeah. So that's the reason why I asked.
I think, yes, we have the system in place. I think we have done a lot of work on this. And here, I have one statement here from one, because I need to read all, because I'm under 5 more minutes, because those who ask question. I agree with this during PKPB. Many virtual meetings were effective, produced results and saved costs. Why don't we continuously practice this new norm? Another one says, to thrive in the VUCA world, what are the attributes UiTM must establish to ensure we stand a better chance to lead?
what are they?
What are the attributes UiTM must establish to ensure we stand a better chance to lead. Let me read the other questions what they asked because of no time. The new world made me to forcefully change my teaching style and at the same time remain truthful to my syllabus. This is my personal comment. But my question is the market ready for our COVID-19 students? Do a survey. Next question, agree, create assessment that address or measure HOTS. Does HEA check the abnormal, unfair, why is this is not a platform to find, I don't know why you ask this question since it's behind there. I think this is not for, okay, I'll still read it since it's given. Does HEA check the abnormal, unfair allocation of ATP among lecturers? We are talking about transition from old normal to new normal, nothing to do with these small things. I think the one can be settled in the faculty, but since this were brought up, these are the questions there.
Okay. I don't know which one to answer first. Regarding the ATP, we have system that we can immediately catch some abnormalities, and we really will have to empower the deans and the rectors to monitor the ATPs, which is basically the amanah tugas pensyarah, because the resources are with them. You are handling the resources, so deans and rectors can look through, and the system is there for you to check immediately. And please do allow lecturers to come to you and talk to you if they feel that they are being overburdened by an abnormal ATP. Yeah? Whether or not HOT could be measured, that's another issue, and we have got a lot of activities. You see, the thing about HOT is paper examination alone may not be the best way to measure HOT, but at the end of the day, the behavioral pattern of that individual, thinking pattern of that person, communication, manifestation of thoughts could perhaps be a good measure for us to tell us whether he is thinking on a higher order thinking or not. So you're going to have a lot of platforms where these attributes can be manifested, allowed to be manifested by the student, and you're going to have to find a way how the assessment need to be done. But if you're going to give them a paper examination, that maybe you can, but it's perhaps not going to be as effective. Case studies, I do agree that would also be a good way to measure. So, and I didn't get the first question.
The first question was a statement actually.
Okay.
It was a statement. I agree with this. During PB, many virtual meetings were effective, produced results and saved costs. Why don't we continuously practice this new norm?
Okay, yes. Virtual meeting is important. Be active in a virtual meeting. My experience meeting virtually with many people, there will be some who basically literally inactive, having their picture there, but they are not there. We can tell. Be active, be participative, and at the end of the day, like I said, it's all up to you if you want to do it. Okay? Attendance is there, shown there, but sometimes they are not there. That could happen in a virtual meeting. So don't convey this message to your team. Don't have this kind of signals given to your management team, because it will only create distrust, doubts, and when that happens, something else will come out. More regulation, more SOPs, which is not, in a way, quote unquote, tackling the human side of us. And I think it's so critical that we start humanizing our activities rather than just going through a very mechanical approach of doing things. After all, universities are human institutions. That much I can say for that.
Thank you. I got 3 more minutes for the sum up for both of you. First question for you is only one, not first question, there's only one question in maybe 2-3 minutes. What will be your main advice from the accreditation council to the heads of faculties and campuses as they lead their people to their new normal? What will be the advice for them?
The very simple advice that I would give is do not compromise on our accreditation standard. That's in whatever way that the new normal and how flexible you want your TLE to happen, go for it. We applaud for it. and do share with us what are the activities and the LE activities that you are doing, and how best can you really provide the attainment of the outcome of the graduates. Those are the important things that we're looking at. We are not going to be looking at all the nitty-gritty methods that you are doing. At the end of the day, all the 12 POs that we have actually mentioned in our standards must be fully addressed, because otherwise then we are compromising with the International Engineering Alliance's mutual recognition. So we are looking at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prof, your advice for the head of faculties and campuses.
Well, I would really, we have dwelled into the document of Education 5.0 that addresses a whole spectrum of the purpose of education, right from the holistic goal to the methodologies. You're going to have to go through the document, talk about it, have a forum among yourself, because I think this is a document that has been comprehensively thought on to produce students, especially in handling the VUCA world. And we are really dwelling on issues of thinking, honesty, and being able to navigate complexities, whatever things that may come on them. If you have thoughts on making it better, feel free to say, hello, can we look at these issues? Can we be participative? That's my thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is the end of our session for this first dialogue, transitioning to the new normal in higher education. To sum up this, I think when we want to go to a new destination, first we must know where are we, where do we want to go, and how to get there. We know where we are. We are in a situation where it's chaotic, but we are learning something. Hopefully, whatever mistakes we are making, we can apply this mistake, rectify the mistake, and move forward. There will be mistakes from time to time, but to overcome them. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank both this panel, Prof. Dr. Haji Muhammad Kamal Haji Harun, Deputy Vice Chancellor for UiTM, and Engineer Dr. Siti Hawa Hamzah, Director of Board of Engineers Malaysia, especially in Engineering Accreditation Department and Engineering Technology Accreditation. Sekian, terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Prof. Panjit. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are now moving on to Dialogue 2. Once again, I'd like to remind to the participants not to forget to log in into your Padlet via the QR code provided for the Q&A platform. Moving on to Dialogue number 2, titled Advancing Learning and Innovation in High-End TVET. Please welcome a moderator, Professor Dr. Azni Zain Ahmed, Resident Reviewer, Institute of Quality and Knowledge Advancement, INCA UiTM, and panel number 1, Professor Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail, President of Academy of Science Malaysia, and panel number 2, Professor Datuk IR Dr. Hassan Basri, Chairman, Engineering Technology Accreditation Council, ETAC. Prof. Azni, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Madam Ana. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to be a moderator this morning. It's good to be back from time to time. Prof. Kamal, Prof. Noazia, Prof. Zakia, and all the panelists and moderators. It's really a great honor to be here, and I'm very privileged to be the moderator for two very eminent personalities. I have to introduce them a little bit, because I think it is because they have new portfolios now. Yeah, some of us may not know. I didn't know until I read the CVs. I'll start off with, of course, on my right. Excuse me, Datuk Hassan, ladies first, yes. Their CVs are so long, I'll take the whole morning or maybe until tomorrow night if I were to read the whole thing, but I'll just read the pertinent points. about Professor Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail, FASC. Now, Prof. Datuk Dr. Asma is a woman of many firsts. She was the first woman to be appointed twice as the VC of 2 public universities, the first female DG of higher education, the first female president of Academy of Sciences Malaysia, the first female chairperson of MQA, and her current position, is it the first female? Of course, Ibn Sina Chair for Medicine at UiTM. Welcome, Dato' Asma. Then we have on my left, seating position pun saya tak tahulah kenapa one on my right. But anyway, we have to put one on my right and one on my left. It was Dato' Asma's choice to sit on my right. Both of them actually, or rather, I have been privileged enough to work at one point in their careers and one point in my career together. Yeah? Just a second. I seem to have lost your CV, Dato' Hassan. Oh, it's here. Dato' Hassan started with UiTM a very, very long time ago. And today he is the honorary professor at the Faculty of Civil Engineering, UiTM. Welcome back. Welcome back, Dato'. Apart from that, he is now the chairman of Productive Sepakat Consulting Engineers, Sendirian Berhad, a board member of the Board of Engineers Malaysia, and currently is also the chairman of the Engineering Technology Accreditation Council, ETAC Malaysia. All right. Maybe we have to start the ball rolling. The first question is, now we've been talking, if we talk about TVET, which is Technical Vocational Education and Training, what comes to mind is training of skills, values, and competencies. And we always think about community colleges, polytechnics, MTONs offering these programs. So my question is it appropriate for universities to offer TVET programs? Again, ladies first, Dato' Hassan. I'll ask Dato' Asma first.
Hello. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Let me put to you this way. First of all, if you look at the understanding what TVET is all about, is occupational direction with major emphasis on industry practices. Basically, it's going to be something that we all need, that the industries would need. But if you would go by the definition of TVET as done by MQA, then it will have to be at least 60 to 70% practical component emphasized on psychomotor skills. But this is actually what MQA calls level 3, and then up to diploma, which is now level 5. But the question posed is that should universities now offer, universities should start to consider TVET from level 6, which is the bachelor's degree, level 7, master's degree, level 8, PhD. The question then is that the meaning of TVET itself has got 3 lanes. I don't know whether you understand the pathway of TVET. One is recognized by the MBOT, that is in terms of TVET, in terms of the technology. The other is recognized by ETAC, that is engineering TVET, usually offered at level 5 or level 6, but from the polytechnics. The question now is that the engineering, the one that is the first dialogue just now, is the engineering. And the engineering pathway is not considered as a TVET. However, we are now formulating new standards for level 6. And this time around for level 6 is going to be for the advanced learning and innovation that we are looking for, whereby at the moment now there is no percentage how much practical needs to be there, but there is a need now for engineers to now also have a change in paradigm and mindset regarding post-COVID. What do we want our engineers to be? So this is where now there is a need for 50-50, perhaps practical as well as fundamental. Before, our engineers may not be necessarily high on the practical side, because for TVET it's 70% practical and 30% fundamental. But for the engineers, the one that is considered by EAC, they don't have to show practicality. And that's why at the end of the day, what we are seeing now is that the engineering faculty is very high in H index, very high in publication, but knowledge generation, what have you done with that knowledge? That is still something that the country needs to look forward to. But now we are talking about post-COVID. Post-COVID, the fastest way for economic recovery is now to have, to be a high-income nation, we have to be a high-tech nation. So if we are going to do this, we're going to need people who are in the technology base. And at the moment now, if you learn anything, what COVID has taught us is that STI, Science, Technology, Innovation, is now going to be the key that's going to drive the innovation knowledge base in the country. But if you look at the data, we are now down to 19% STEM. So that means to say the future generation of Malaysians are not there to satisfy the need to become a high-tech nation. So that's why there is a need now for the universities to address this post-COVID, and that's why I say a definite yes for the movement now to have TVET from the universities, but this time around with advanced learning, advanced cognitive, advanced psychomotor, but increasing with the degree of difficulty as we develop from bachelor to master's to PhD. But definitely to be now a solution provider that is in tune to the needs of humanity.
Thank you, Dato' Asma. No, it's very convincing now, but because of post-COVID, we need high-level TVET. So, Dato' Hassan, what's your take on it, since you are on the accreditation board?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Prof. Azni, Dato' Asma, respected leaders of UiTM and respected participants. First of all, thank you very much for UiTM for inviting me back to this August University. When I was here 40 years ago, or almost 4 decades ago, names like Professor Nawi, Professor Wan Mahmud in my Faculty of Civil Engineering, Shahul Hamid are the ones being said around, but I think none of them are here anymore. Some of you may be remember Prof. Shahul Hamid. Anyway, I'm very happy to be back here. And in fact, this is my second presentation at UiTM. The first was at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, Prof. Juliana about 2 months ago. But let me go direct into the question posed: is TVET appropriate for universities? The simple answer is yes. Because, as just to reinforce what Dato' Asma has emphasized, the need for universities to be closer and more relevant to industry. The definition, the very original definition of TVET itself requires university to embrace TVET. Apart from the practical definition given by the MQA, which is 60% minimum or 60 to 70% must be practical in nature, must emphasize on psychomotor. The definition from the educator's perspective, I think would be, it is good we refer to the UNESCO definition. These days it's very easy. For me, even though I'm a non-educator, I just Google and it will appear. So the UNESCO definition is, what is TVET? TVET is the acquisition of knowledge and skills, which is what we are all doing, for the world of work. A very simple definition. Acquisition of knowledge and skills for the world of work. Now, coming to the question, of course, universities prepare students for the world of work. Obviously, that gives the answer, is a resounding yes. And then again, I would like to say another point which emphasizes this. medical education. To me, medical education is the best example of TVET. Because if you look at their 5 years of integrated medical education, by the way, Prof. Zaharin, are you here? The Dean of Medical, my former colleague at UKM. Anyway, medical education, in theory, or the best form of medical education is done at the hospital. In UKM, for example, we have hospital UKM, so 5 years they spend at the hospital. So what they receive in the world of work, in their world of work, which is quite well defined, the hospital, they will easily understand what are the requirements of the world of work. And of course, we know medical education is education where the top universities offer. So definitely, if medical education is a form of TVET and it is offered by universities, then we should go into other disciplines. And of course, another, in the previous dialogue this morning, there was talk about how to measure, should we give CGPA, marks. But if you look at medical education, they don't have CGPA. They don't give 3.1, 3.9. It's either you are a doctor or you are not doctor. So that is one of the hallmarks of TVET education, that you demonstrate you have achieved the minimum competency that the industry requires. So with that definition in mind, and of course for the engineering sector as well, maybe I just mention one final point regarding the engineering discipline. In fact, engineering has always been of TVET nature. How engineering developed in the past is all dictated by industry. It started with apprenticeships and so on. There was one moment in history where it appears that engineering becomes too theoretical, and that moment in history was when there was the Cold War. For those of you who are over 60, you may remember the Cold War. Russia and US were competing in everything. So suddenly Russia sent Sputnik into space. That's the first satellite into space, into orbit. And the Americans were panicky. They say, oh, how come we haven't done this? So to send something to space, you don't need, you require higher level mathematics, higher level physics, astronomy and so on. So that's when more theory was put into engineering education so that they are able to achieve the higher level knowledge to be imparted to the student. But in doing so, some, especially Anglo-Saxon countries, their engineering is very theoretical in nature because of this historical event. But there is still the practical nature of engineering. In some countries, they call it engineering technology. In some countries like Germany, they don't differentiate the name. They are all engineers, but one is educated by the Fachhochschule, or the practical-oriented universities, the universities of applied sciences. And it's good, it's pertinent to know, especially the engineering community in UiTM, that in Germany, which can be considered as the top or probably one of the top engineering nations of the world, 2/3 of their engineering programs are offered by the Fachhochschule, not the traditional conventional universities. And also the number of 1 million engineers they have in Germany, 2/3 of them are actually TVET engineers, those who are educated not with high-level 8-order differential equation theory at the back of their mind, They are all practical-oriented engineers, 2/3 of them. So for engineering, I would say that education was originally of TVET nature, and that's why the Board of Engineers has embraced the national TVET agenda by the setting up of ETAC about 6-7 years ago. ETAC, the Engineering Technology Accreditation Council, looks into the TVET portion of engineering, the hands-on portion of engineering, and I'm happy to note that UiTM is also embracing this concept, and as my colleague at the Board of Engineers, Prof. Siti, this morning alluded to, we do that not blindly, not macam kata bawah tempurung, but we do that by benchmarking against the international standards, so that we are sure that we are on the right track. Thank you.
So we are now talking about higher levels of TVET, high cognitive skills, higher competencies, more knowledge. So the word high-end TVET comes in. When we Google high-end TVET, the name UiTM comes up. So the first time I heard high-end TVET was from Prof. Kamal. So I'm assuming, I hope I'm right, Prof. Kamal invented the words high-end TVET. So what Dato' Hassan and Prof. Asma are talking is already high-end TVET. Cuma TVET, we can leave it to the other institutions. So universities now we are embracing high-end TVET. Dato' Hassan has already mentioned even the medical education is already high-end TVET, and some engineering programs are also high-end TVET. So what do we include now, embed in the new curriculum post-COVID? Dato' Hassan first, yeah?
Thank you for the question. Consistent with the definition of TVET, which means that it must be the acquisition of knowledge and skills for the world of work. So the curriculum of high-end TVET must be dictated by the world of work, whatever your world of work is in your relevant faculties. So for example, excuse me, so for the engineers, for example, is engineering work. So we have we know what engineering work is. So perhaps I can respond to that by giving one example. My own field of engineering, civil engineering, for example. Our graduates, when they graduate to work in the construction industry, for example, they cannot straight away do certain specific jobs in the construction industry, because the industry requires skills and competency certification for those particular components. So they require another 3-4 years to attend training courses and attend or get certification by CIDB. In the case of the construction industry, it's CIDB. So they will be ready for work several years after graduation. So that would not be a truly TVET education. An ideal TVET education would be all the skills certification, all the competency certifications by the industry should be embedded into the curriculum, so that when they graduate excuse me, seamlessly into the industry. Referring back to the medical education analogy, which I consider as the ideal TVET up to the highest level, the student, when they graduate today, UiTM also has a medical faculty, the people involved would know. The next day, they can already seamlessly work into the hospital, in the hospital. It's just that in Malaysia, there are some logistical issues. You need to wait for 6 months or 3-4 months before they get placement. But for example, in UK, one of my relatives just graduated recently. Tomorrow, she is still in the same hospital, continuing similar work yesterday when she was still a student. So that is the ideal, to me, the ideal TVET education, where you seamlessly bring the student to the workplace. In fact, the ideal thing would be if all of the education is delivered, or most of it is delivered at the workplace. So the more workplace-based education is provided, the easier you are to adapt to the world of work once you graduate. So for example, if the construction, we offer a construction technology degree in engineering technology, once half or more than half of the program you are at the construction companies, and then acquiring all the skills and competencies and getting certificated for that. So upon graduation, you seamlessly continue with the work, and perhaps you are now a qualified project manager or construction engineer, seamlessly accepted by the regulatory body, which is the IDB, who has a list of certification, skill certification that is required for one to work in the industry. And so my answer to that is that the ideal TVET curriculum at higher level, including in the higher level, high end, is that it must include the industry skills, and if it is well defined, all the certificates should be obtained during the 3 or 4 years education process, just like the medical education process.
Thank you, Dato' Hassan. You have given us some very practical examples to your answer. Can we have your input, Dato' Asma?
Yeah. First of all, before I forget, thank you very much for inviting me to share my thoughts. I don't know what, as President of Academy of Sciences, but I think a lot of the questions that is posed asked me to recall as the DG of Higher Education. Let me now bring back to the title of this dialogue. The dialogue says, Advancing Learning and Innovation in High-End Tibet. Okay, Prof. Kamal, you come up with the high-end Tibet. I also was Googling, trying to find out what is the high-end Tibet all about. And we are now talking about the university. If the university is producing the same old kind of people, bila Malaysia nak advance? Okay, we now, as I said, COVID teach us many things. Question is, did we learn anything from what COVID is teaching us? Number one, we don't want just to develop talent that will fit into the world of work, because the world of work is changing with the disruptive technologies that is now happening. Many of the technologies that we know today is going to be blasé 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now. So what is the world of work now? It has to change. Construction industry, tomorrow I have 3D printing, 4D printing, the whole construction industry will now go in a different mode altogether. And the thing is, we don't want the same old job seekers. We would like, as a university, to be able now to produce change makers. People who now can create the change. For so long, Malaysia is a consumer of technology. When are we going to be the creator of technology? So that means the curriculum, this is the time for change. Post-COVID allow us to now, under economic recovery plan, this is the time to change. If we're going to do the same old, it's not going to make a difference in this country. This country needs, for short-term economic recovery, to move us to high-tech nation in order to become a high-income nation. That means we have to go from production-based to now innovation, innovation or knowledge-based economy. From just talent to now change makers. From just surviving from COVID to now becoming resilient. How do we bounce back? And this time bounce back without having any problem, come what may. Things will now be able, Malaysia will now be able to survive. So that means to say, the engineer of tomorrow is not going, engineer or people in Tibet, even in medicine. Post-COVID has taught us that if medicine was doing just what medicine does, we can no longer become the number 5 country in the world that handle COVID. You know why we can handle COVID? Because we work in a collaborative manner. No more silo, no more Kementerian Kesihatan is Kementerian Kesihatan. And bila ada COVID, Kementerian Kesihatan saja provide the solution. No, MKN is functioning on a collaborative ministry. That's how diagnostics, 16,000 diagnostics can now be done because universities came in to help, right? This is the mindset change that we want to have now, right? No more working in silo, no more I'm in construction, I'm in this, I'm in that. Now let's say we become an engineer that can provide a solution to humanity. What does that mean? That means now it's not an engineer who provides a solution, an engineering solution, but a solution that is now acceptable to humanity. Meaning to say, in the engineering punya curriculum, there is a need now to teach about integrated knowledge. Integrated knowledge, not just engineering, but also to learn about social science, to learn about humanities, to learn about arts and design, to learn and understand humanity. Then the solution that you are now providing will be something that what people would need. Then you can say yourself, I'm a practical engineer. Otherwise you're not. You're just providing an engineering solution. So itu example. Sama juga macam doctors of tomorrow. Walaupun this is considered as a skill, competency, but doctors of tomorrow also need to understand new things about health policies, right? About advocacies, about the new kind of patients tomorrow with the robotics now coming in. Doctors are just, people come to the doctors just for second opinion because Watson can already diagnose for you. So things are changing at a rapid rate, and I think our curriculum, our curriculum for engineering, level 6, level 7, level 8 has got to change, and that's why MQA now is helping to now come up with a better approach, a better code of practice untuk sekarang ni for the level 6, level 7, level 8 engineering group. The other one is that this is high time we put in values-based education. You talk today about integrity, right? Where is that integrity if it's you don't put place in the curriculum values-based? ACAP is talking about values-based all the while. The blueprint is also asking for balance between ilmu and akhlak. Bukan adab, akhlak. Beyond adab is akhlak. So that is what we are asking for. So the question now is that, is COVID teaching you new normals or it is exactly renewed normals? We've been having this before post-COVID, but we never implement it. So sekarang baru nak kata this is new norm. Global online education, shift 9 of the blueprint, daripada zaman jahiliah lagi 2014, we're already asking you to do it. If you had done it, you don't have any problem today with online learning, but we never do it. So suddenly now this becomes a new norm, Prof. Mamji? This is not a new norm, this is a renewed norm. Of course, there are certain things that is now going to be new, but a lot of things are actually, if you think about it, is renewed. Right? So now we begin to see things from a different perspective. So as far as I'm concerned, right, I think the new things that need to be added is integration of knowledge. The new things that need to be added also is becoming entrepreneurial minded. Bukan menjadi entrepreneur, kalau jadi entrepreneur, alhamdulillah, but entrepreneurial minded needs to be there. And of course, becoming a change maker and also a job creator, not simply just to fulfill becoming a member of the industry, but in the industry that can make a difference, industry that can make a change. Because Malaysia badly needs this kind of high-end industry. That is Malaysian, that is LLC, large local company, bukan be part of job seeker for MNC. Bila lagi kita nak take off on our own? Maaf ya, saya terbakar sikit hari ini because I think there is a room for change, and the way we are teaching the students now, we should think about collaboration. We should think about sharing of information because tomorrow is about convergence of knowledge lah. If you don't share information, you don't start to have this kind of mindset. Bila kita tak impart that to the students, bila lagi kita nak improve? Because kita sendiri mungkin tak suka sharing, but the students, we have the, what do you call that word? Amanah. We have the amanah to now be able to teach the future generation the right things. Maybe what we're doing is not right, but we need now to change in order to fit in for the future generation, to teach the student about flexibility, adaptability, because we don't really know now what kind of technology will be there in the future because of the disruptive technology, the change that is now happening. So that is the best that we can do to teach the student about values, about collaboration, about being entrepreneurial minded, and so on and so forth. So, and also to also understand that things don't happen overnight. Bila student kita tak faham tentang, they talk about politics, but essentially there is also a need to understand how things are procured, how things are being done, how decisions are being made. All these things need to be done in terms of policies. New policy thinking also needs to be taught. Economics needs to be taught to the students. Sometimes when they are there, I want this, I want that, but they don't understand that money is tight. So how the economics of things have also to be taught. So there are a lot of other things about being global values, about local values. All these need to be taught because our student of the future needs to have confidence to be a global player. Tetapi mempunyai jati diri sendiri, right? This is necessary, not to get absorbed by the global, but to now be able to say, I'm a global player, but a Malaysian in terms of identity. So that is some of the things that I can say today.
Thank you, Ratu Asma. That's only some of the things. There are a lot of things, I'm sure. For the benefit of our panelists and moderators this morning, the participants here are heads of academic departments, headed by Prof. Kamal, of course, and we have the Director of Academic Development, Prof. Nur Azia, down here. So the purpose of SHAD is to get more ideas, and I think they are doing a good job up here. I'm glad I'm not the DVC of academic anymore because post-COVID is a hell of a job, right, Prof. Kamal? But it's not just you, it's all of you here, down there. But I'm glad I'm here to moderate things this morning. There's a very interesting question from the participants. Somebody asked here, what do you mean by high-end psychomotor skills? Can you answer either Dato' Asma or Dato' Hassan? High-end psychomotor skills. A question from the floor. I think it's quite interesting. What do you mean by psychomotor high-end?
Okay, in order for one of the economic recovery plan, Academy Science Malaysia is now forwarding 10-10 framework, which is 10 technologies, emerging technologies of the future to move and drive 10 socio-economic areas of the country. And when we say psychomotor, we are talking about the ability, the competency to be able to now move that particular technology. Some of the 10-10 technologies that I can remember offhand, 5G, 6G, sensor, IoT, artificial intelligence, neuro technology, in biotechnology in terms of gene editing, gene modification, in cyber security. So these are the areas. But to drive these areas require fundamental knowledge. Otherwise, we will not be able to compete. Blockchain is the other one. So a lot of people are doing blockchain. There's a lot of patent pending in blockchain. The question is to drive Malaysia forward. Malaysia has to have their own intellectual property dalam blockchain lah. That means, can we now be able to drive blockchain? Can we now drive artificial intelligence to the next level? What can we now do? So this kind of high-end psychomotor is what we now need to be able to drive by design. Before, we have always left things by chance. Now we want to say, okay, agriculture industry is now a laggard, right? Because agriculture sekarang ni is now full of aging farmers. Somehow agriculture industry does not seem to attract. Maybe it's not sexy enough for the young generation to come in. But this is the time for the agriculture industry to now have precision agriculture, using of drones, start to now use technology. So who's going to be able to now inculcate this kind of innovation that will now drive, let's say, our agriculture industry to become a pace setter? So this is the kind of high-end psychomotor skills that you will now need, that is practical as well at the same time driving fundamental to the next level to produce now innovation that can drive a certain industry from a laggard to now becoming a pace setter in the country.
Maybe another example of high-end psychomotor skills in the context of TVET. I would come back to the example of medical education, which I consider TVET. One of the, after medical education, after you get your MBBS, you get your master's, and then you do sub-specialization. At the sub-specialization level, you'll be that's where you can become a professor and so on. So one example is the latest development. Of course, COVID is one, but I'll quote another example. In the area of stroke management. Stroke is a very common disease. Now, if you are familiar with someone who had stroke before, the stroke window for you to get a drug to dilute the blood is 4 hours. Within 4 hours, you must rush your patient or your colleague to the hospital for them, and not any hospital. Only certain hospitals can administer that drug to reverse back so that your brain don't get permanent damage. Now there is a new skill which increases the window to 24 hours. And I think it is led by one of our universities, the new hospital in UPM. Of course, HUKM also has it. It increases to 24 hours, and that entails our specialists and our scientists and our experts in the medical faculty to be able to put in a string of a wire and go to the brain from somewhere in the body and grab the blocking clot and take it out. That can be done within 24 hours. So someone from Sabah Sarawak can fly to HUKM and get it done. And the person who do it must have psychomotor skills. So someone, the doctor, the professor must be relatively young. If it's 60 plus, my hand's already shaking. You cannot do that. So that is perhaps one example of high-end psychomotor skills, which is TVET. But it must be accompanied not only just the psychomotor, the physical movement of hands and limb, but it must be accompanied by adequate knowledge and the right attitude. So I would think that, to just reinforce Dr. Asma's point about multidisciplinarity, so this particular example, for example, it will not be possible without the medical engineers, medical technologists who develop the procedure and the equipment to reach the brain and get the clot away. This is one of the most recent developments, and Malaysia is at the forefront. I think it is another example where medical, because we are TVET up to the very top in medical education, we are leading the world in many things. I think some of you have read that Malaysia is number 1 in health tourism. Health tourism, we are number 1. It's because our doctors are already well trained. So compliments to the medical faculty staff here. Anyway, that means when we talk about psychomotor, referring to physical skill, it must also be complemented with knowledge of the necessary science and the necessary mechanics, which will boil back to multidisciplinarity of the whatever problem that you face, and that would be the way forward for innovation. Is that we are not compartmentalized into our own narrow world, because most of innovations are initiated because when two minds of different disciplines meet and they solve a problem which normally wouldn't be able to be solved by one particular discipline.
Can I add to that? When you're talking about robot-assisted surgery, I was just wondering, so I asked the Academy of Science to deep dive, why are we not having majority of our hospitals moving on robot-assisted surgery. And baru ni MTDC in the National Economic Council said that walaupun dia orang nak move robot-assisted surgery, there's a lot of resistance from the clinician. And this is because our lawyer kita cannot catch up with the Medical Act laws. At the moment now, who is touching the patient? The robot or the doctor? So, and the insurance also will cover only kalau malpractice by the doctor. But this time around, the doctor is behind the robot. You are sending now nanobots. Right now, with Oxford and Cambridge, they have come up with a removal of cataract dengan sending nanobots into the eye, and the doctor just tekan send and then wait for the nanobots to now actually repair all the cataract, and then the nanobots need to come out from the eye. So the doctor tekan lagi sekali and the nanobots now come out. So this is the level that we are talking now. But the question is to move the nanobots inside there, adakah the act cover? So maknanya insurance sekarang ni. So this is why I say there is a need for us to not just advance in our technology, but to also understand the circumstances around that particular technology. Why that technology cannot take place very fast in our country, padahal ramai dah kita punya clinician have the ability, capability to now be able to perform it. So the ecosystem is what I'm trying to say, that a student when now bila they graduate, especially masters or PhD, need to understand that everything works in an ecosystem. It's not just your area, but the ecosystem sometimes can dampen you punya ability to proceed to the next level.
Thank you. I think that Dato' Asma and Dato' Hassan have given us an insight into the future. We're looking into the future, and this is what we have to prepare ourselves on how to produce that kind of people in the future. The next question is, maybe Dato' Hassan can answer first. What do we have to prepare now in terms of finance, facilities, in order to change the mindset, the skills of the academic staff that we have now? What are the preparations that we have to make?
Of course, attending programs like this for awareness, so that we are not stuck in a different past world. But even at the international level, they keep on moving the standards, or keep on improving the CQI concept. In the field of engineering, for example, as mentioned earlier by my colleague, we benchmark against international standards, and the standard specify the outcomes. So it is flexible in the sense that how you achieve the outcomes is up to you. But the outcomes, it is also very important to get it right, because if you get the wrong outcomes, everything goes haywire. So it's very important that the outcomes keep on being reviewed year to year, and I think the latest review ongoing now is just like what Dato' Asma mentioned, to include the human side of the educational outcome into engineering education. In fact, engineering education now, we have, those engineers here would know, 12 program outcomes. Out of these 12, already 7 out of 12 are non-technical, non-engineering in nature. They are the ethics, the communication skills, the sustainability, environmental awareness, the lifelong learning, ability to adapt to environment. Is already specified, and of course, now a program to be accredited by the Board of Engineers, they must demonstrate that these outcomes has been attained by a certain process, and that process can be very flexible up to the university, and with, for example, certain items, certain parts in the process, we also try to assist the universities. For example, the component of fourth industrial revolution technologies, the Internet of Things, the AI, this thing now we specify in our TVET standard that it must be part of the curriculum. If you do not have the Internet of Things, the AI at the appropriate levels, at the high end, it will be a higher end level, then you will not be accredited. That is in recognition of the fast changing world. And of course, this morning's session is VUCA, everything is uncertain, but there are certain skills, many of them are non-technical in nature. Ethics and values is one of them, another important area. And from the technical side also, there are certain skills which we know will be the foundation of most innovations, like AI and Internet of Things and high-end robotics. So that would be my response.
To Asma, do you have anything to add?
Basically, I need to come back to the job description of a lecturer. One is knowledge generating, then is knowledge dissemination, then there is training. And training here ada dua. Satu is training in terms of capacity building, and the other one is training in terms of capability building. Right? This is for the next level, capability. If you're already a professor, are you an international global professor? That requires capability building, right, to the next level. And the last one is advocacy. Support something, have passion on something. That will now probably be your legacy. So there's this range of job description. But at the end of the day, when you are now facing VUCA, right? Then there is a need now to say whatever you have studied before for your PhD is going to be blasé. So at the end of the day, do not fear about new knowledge. So lifelong learning now becomes something that you need to have, and at the same time impart that to the student. Not only lifelong, life-wide learning, new skills that you need to have. And the other one, now that we are post-COVID, and some of the things that we need to learn, we need now to have SDG in mind. This was a new thing that should be now added to the curriculum, to now be able to say, if I now am an engineer, what should be my job? To perhaps make electricity without having carbon emission, with zero carbon emission. Barulah mind tu berfikir tentang SDG. So that now climate change will not be there, so that you now don't have any other problems that we are going to face with new pandemic. So why not we move hydrogen energy? Hydrogen power has zero carbon emission. So perhaps that's the way electricity should be done. So these are the kind of new thinking. That's what I say by change maker, all right, that we now need to essentially have. But essentially, Prof. Kamal talk about amanah. Coming from UIA, now ada Islam ini kena amanah tu very penting. Sebab dekat UIA dia tak ada KPI, dia ada amanah. And Usain, dia tak main KPI, dia ada amanah. What is the basic amanah for you as a professor? What is the basic amanah for you as a lecturer, for associate professor? Then, what will then be your above amanah that you now so say deserve promotion? That you now so say deserve SKT 5%, cemerlang, so amanah. So you determine your amanah, right? So basically, if now Professor Hassan said, I'm so glad that engineering is now thinking about having IoT, sensor, the new technology, right? And ramai kita don't have that kind of technology when we finish our training. So if we don't have it, go and acquire it. And that means to say, if you got to take your sabbatical to the industry, do it. That's what we have to do now, because amanah kita. We need to train the future generation with new knowledge, and they need to be better than us. Baru the country will now survive and do a better job. So bottom line sekarang ni, I think maybe we should now also include the training of lecturers supaya dia dapat sabbatical dalam industry, maybe 1 month every 2 years or something, to keep abreast with the knowledge that the industry now needs. But sekarang ni Prof. Kamal, we are faced with economic problem. Sedap lah dok kecek pasal IoT, sensor, gedebuk-gedebuk, but the labs, need to be upgraded, and we don't have the kind of funds to do that. So this is the time we talk about collaboration. At the National Science Council baru ni, we have already luluskan the formation of technology assemblies. Maknanya, this is the consortium driven by industry to now be able to teach people from level 3, 4, 5, to now be able to be skilled in information technology, skilled in Python, whatever that the industry now needs. And the equipment is also provided by the industry. And at the end of the day, scholarship for industry bagi, supaya at the end of the day, dia dapat the workers that come out from these 2-year technology assemblies. So I say when I was this year at USM, why not the lecturers, instead of just going for sabbatical, we don't have that kind. The blueprint already provided for 2U2I and 3U1I. So this is the time for us to now say, instead of just simply go to the industry for internship, buat copy, Xerox paper, ya, why not kita send the student for 1 year in the technology assembly? Then that student now is picking up the latest state of the art and using equipment that memang digunakan di dalam industri. But because they got 3 years of fundamental, kepala dia insya-Allah akan putar-putar to now become the change maker. Because they are introduced now to the latest technology, how now they can advance beyond that technology. You understand that? If you give our students are bright. If you give them the right tools, they will fly. But if you give them the aging tools, yang ni yang bagi student difficult to now show their capability and ability. So give them the right tools. And along the way, kenapa lecturer daripada universiti tidak boleh menjadi the trainer, help to train? Maknanya the industry in this consortium which we call technology assembly sekarang ni will now be able to, they are bringing the best from the industries around the world to now come. Bubuh lecturer kita dalam tu. Let them learn together and then become the trainer. And then insyaAllah become, when we collaborate with that, then we don't have to think about, do we need to have a lab of our own? You know, think in advance lah. This is what Minerva University is all about. You don't own anything anymore. You collaborate to get the kind of facilities. So mungkin tertanya di hati kecil, di mana teknologi assembly ni? For sure in Penang, it's called Future School. Tulis Kamal, Future School. Because you can Google it and you can go in. This is now moving the EE industry. 16 industries in the EE, electronic punya factories come together. This is all the LLCs. LLC, so that they can now train daripada keluar SPM sampai ke ni. And gaji mereka bila keluar is 8,000 a month. You know why? Because they have now the actual skill that the industry really needs. Okay, that's okay for level 3, level 5. We are talking now level 6, level 7, level 8. If they have this kind of exposure, I'm sure the country will fly. And this is why ASM is now advocating for, let's now move our own high-end industry in this country. And I think this is one way that we can go forward with that collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wish they could stay here until the end of the day, but we have time constraints. So actually, Dato' Asma and Dato' Hassan have already answered some of the questions from the floor, because I have them in the iPad here, and they're all answered. And you've also answered my question, which is about Green TVET. UNESCO has introduced Green TVET, and the definition of Green TVET is it is education for enhancing problem-solving skills in everyday situations, education for sustainable consumption and lifestyles, and entrepreneurial learning. So that was mentioned all that. So, both of them have also said we have to embed all this in our curriculum. To end and summarize, high-end TVET, in addition to the development of skills, competencies and knowledge, it is high-order cognitive skills development and high-end skills development plus values. So the outcome of this kind of education is highly skilled, creative and innovative, that's what both of them have said, and responsible graduates for society. So with that, thank you very much, Dato' Asma Ismail and Dato' Hassan Dato' panjang sangat, Professor Dato' Insinyur Hassan Basri. It has been a pleasure, and I'm glad that we meet again on stage today to help the younger ones to produce the next generation of highly skilled workforce for the country. With that, thank you very much, and thank you again for the invitation. Dato' Asma Dewasan, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Asni. Thank you to the moderator and panels of dialogue number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, I have here 2 housekeeping announcements. Number 1, participants are reminded to complete the feedback form for each dialogue session via the QR code provided on your table. Second, lost and found item. Our secretariat found a car key in the ladies' washroom. To claim, please proceed to the registration counter. Thank you.
You know why? Because they have now the actual skill.
Distinguished guests, we are now on dialogue 3 before we can take a break. This dialogue particularly is very exciting because it is what is going to happen soon. Yeah, faculty merging, especially to us engineering faculties. The dialogue entitled Reinventing Higher Quality Education Through Synergy, Collaborative and Restructuring. Okay, and while our team is preparing the stage, this dialogue particularly we have, like just now we only have 2 panels. For this particular dialogue we have 3 panels. So we're going to witness a quite deliberating discussion. And for that I would like to welcome on stage the moderator, esteemed colleague of ours, Professor Datin Professor Dr. Zainab Muhammad, Honorary Professor, Faculty of Civil Engineering, UiTM. With our panel 1, again please welcome Professor Technologist Dr. Haji Muhammad Kamal Haji Harun, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic and International, UiTM. Panel number 2, Professor Dr. Zaki Ahmad, Dean, Faculty of Civil Engineering, UiTM. And panel number 3, Professor Dr. Haji Ruslan Abdul Rahim, Dean, Faculty of Art and Design, UiTM. Prof. Zainab, the stage is all yours.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih TMC. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon to all the audience. Thank you for inviting me to moderate the 3rd dialogue. Being the affiliate to faculty, I'm given a tougher task on stage this morning. I just realized others have only 2 panels. I'm given with 3 panels, so it must be tougher. Anyway, to keep to the schedule, I would like to welcome Yang Berbahagia, our Deputy Vice Chancellor. You are now given second chance to talk, Prof. And second, our Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Zaki Ahmad, Dean, my Dean. And thirdly, Professor Dr. Haji Ruslan Abdul Rahim, Dean of Faculty of Art and Design. Welcome all 3 panels. Now, we have 1 hour for this dialogue and another 20 minutes for Q&A. And on average, I would say 1 panel more or less we can have the most 20 minutes or less, and we can have another 5 minutes to go around to have your opinion. So for a start, we have heard from the first 2 dialogue a lot of ideas and thought from the esteemed speakers. Now the 3rd dialogue entitled Reinventing Higher Quality Education Through Synergic Collaborative Restructuring. If I may, to quote the keyword mentioned by Prof. Kamal during his welcoming speech about governance and management. So this is very much relevant to our audience, head of academic department. Just to recap a bit, I did make some little Google to the free dictionary. What does the reinventing definition? Reinventing means is to make over completely. That's what it means. And synergy collaborative means a group intelligence that emerge from the collaboration. And restructuring keywords refers to corporate management team. So I believe this dialogue is very much relevant to the presence of our audience on the floor. So to start with, Prof, giving you the honor right, to first address to this question. There is an advice from a known business leader saying, to stay relevant, be willing to walk away from things that had succeeded in the past. So to what extent do you believe in that?
Okay, thank you very much. Latin, of course, I believe in it 100%, 110%. Actually, I have to be very frank. Dato' Asma has facilitated this dialogue more than I expected. She has laid out the grounds on collaboration, the needs for collaboration, and I think I'm just going to carry from what she has said. You see, the thing about universities now, content alone won't make you king. What makes a university king, as described by McKinsey, is credibility. The way we are structured currently is very much dwelling on building content within our discipline. However, as mentioned by Dato' Asma, the industries need to be moved and pushed forward by this knowledge that is developed by the universities. But if the knowledge is placed in a silo mode, within the discipline, no industries can actually move by the knowledge alone, because industrial requirement to move forward requires a whole host of knowledge to be put together before they can be pushed forward. So when does universities' credibility comes in? When the industries come to the university and get their challenge problems resolved, which requires a whole host of knowledge to be put together to realistically drive the innovation or resolve the problems that they are facing. And what does that calls for? Collaborative effort within each discipline to be put together to deliver credibility for the university. Not only the industries, even the students. When they come to the university, naturally the expectation is, I will be able to identify my potential and I will be able to nurture this potential so that I can then unleash this potential when I get out of the university. And as you know, potential doesn't rely on one discipline knowledge alone. I may have a whole host of knowledge in one area. If I don't know how to communicate and I do not know how to put this knowledge in context of a situation that I'm in, I'm not well versed in that area, then my knowledge will be just in myself, a contained potential. It's not an unleashed potential. So universities, students have expectation from the curriculum. Industries and stakeholders have got expectation, not to mention the community. And all this expectation, if it can be delivered and resolve the issues of the stakeholders, that's when universities' credibility comes in. So my biggest concern when we look at the way we structure ourselves is we are stifling this collaboration, which is direly needed to build that credibility. We are okay to work within one single area. We get promoted by it. And we are not even bothered to see whether this area can be placed in context in a situation that requires knowledge in other areas. So I believe that the university must then restructure ourselves so that the structure we put in place will produce the culture that is desired. What would be the culture that is desired? A culture of collaboration, a culture of understanding, communicating with one another, and a culture of pushing and innovating and resolve issues for the stakeholders, the students, the industries, and the community. These are the biggest three stakeholders that we are looking for. We'll take an example in the era of one belt, one road, where there'll be a huge transport mechanism being constructed by China across the nations that will spur economy. The single railway engineering is a needed thing. Come along with it, signaling engineering. Okay, and the problem with railway engineering is not civil engineering. It's not chemical, neither is it just electrical, nor, what's the other thing? Mechanical. It's a combination of civil, it's a combination of mechanical, electrical come together to deliver the railway, the engineering, the locomotive engineering required for this industry. Now, if we do not, or we are happy by containing ourselves within our discipline alone, then the university will never be ready to face this VUCA thing that is going to be caused by one belt, one road. That's a point that it's a very simple, basic point that we are trying to deliver. Okay, and not to mention we have got art people here, and then we have got engineers. When you talk about designing, not only has to be functional, credible, but it has to be aesthetically credible too. Because aesthetic will resolve the economic parts of it, perhaps. People like it, people subscribe to it. And if you separate the aesthetic component and the functional component, I mean, you're not being realistic about it. So, in delivering the product. So that is the very reason why I think we need to position the university through this restructuring to address the credibility of the university. That's my short take, Latin.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the start, Prof. Kamal. Then I shall go to the next, right, to get the overall view. To Prof. Zakia. Now, restructuring was a taboo when we started it in 2019. What do you think that led most of us fear restructuring then?
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Restructuring comes to us somewhere when our VC came. Yeah, the idea for restructuring. Yeah, because he mentioned that he wants the biggest college of engineering. He mentioned that. Yeah, rather than biggest faculty of engineering. Yeah, it's a college of engineering, so that we can have a largest number of educators in engineering. All right, but it dies off for a while until early of this year. Suddenly this idea comes in, boom. Yeah, we have to get the restructuring happen by November. Yeah, so definitely there is some some anxiety among lecturers and the community in UiTM. Yeah, so any form of restructuring perceived as change. Yeah, so it's actually not really welcome by many of us. And to be honest, I'm also a little bit skeptical earlier about the change.
organization change, which is by restructuring, we changed our organization. All right. So there are so many things comes into my mind. In fact, that also triggers some of remarks by the community. I've been discussing with my staff and also some of the colleagues here in this hall also. Some of the remark regarding restructuring, before we look at the positive one, because now we would just want to mention about the, not really the negative, but what agitates us about restructuring. Some of the remark is that we are doing okay. Why need to change? All right? We say that we are doing okay. Now, we don't need to restructuring in order to calibrate. We are doing it right now. All right? But how far have we done? And in fact, we know already by the KPI given by the university, either Myra or PI University, we feel like each of us are competitor. We just have been, the BTU has already released the marks for PI that day. It's quite heated. So because we are comparing from one faculty to another faculty, right? And also, we are worried about the new organization structure. What happened with the new organization structure? By combining faculties together, there are questions, who will be the leader? From which faculty? Who is who? Yeah? And then who will be in the management team? Whether he or she be biased or not. All right? So that's worry us. Yeah? And also, will the structure cause the reallocation of staff, transferring of staff, reduction of staff? Yeah, so it's still not clear how to handle JUFR programs with a large number of students. Last time, we have 4 faculties or 5 faculties. We have 5 deputy deans that handle Hal Ehwal Pelajar. Now we have, maybe with the new structure, we have Dean of HEP, Hal Ehwal Pelajar, to handle, for engineering, for example, we have about 5,000 students. Okay, if we don't have enough, with good structure underneath, that Dean, will it be able to really unleash the potential of the student? All right? And also different academic standards, accreditation, different geographical areas, Puncak Alam, Shah Alam, how to manage that. And also, whether is there any reduction in the budget. Okay, because the main idea of merger from the industry is to reduce budget. Yeah, so whether that also will be implemented to the new restructure, the new college, right? Then we start to compare with other universities such as UKM, UiTM, and make claim that what they are doing is a failure, just to cover our anxiety. Is that true or not? We have not given them time to prove that the restructuring is actually positive. They just started, yeah? So like us, so maybe with time, all right, it may produce something good. However, whether we like it or not, restructuring is the necessary evil that we cannot escape from in order for us to synergize and collaborate in our organization if we want to remain relevant. And also the rapid expansion of our programs, of our number, because we target for about, what, 200,000 students? 100,000 students is a large number. All right, so definitely new program has to come out with the new technology, the new, as what mentioned by Prof. Kamal just now, okay, the demands from the industry. Okay, so a big and expected change always shock people and they feel unprepared for it. So we understand. Okay, like Mary Shelley, the author of novel Frankenstein, says, nothing is so painful to the human mind as a great and sudden change. So these are the feelings that we are facing right now. There's also some myth about the organizational restructuring. For example, it works somewhere else, so it can work here. All right. Another myth: restructuring will improve team, Another myth, restructuring will enhance employee performance. And the last one, restructuring will deliver immediate positive results. And this actually has not been rebunked. Okay, so it's still true to some of the organization. Okay, so whether we can prove this is wrong. Okay, so there's a case study of the Minnesota Higher Education Institution where the Minnesota State University, community colleges, and technical colleges merged to form what is now known as Minnesota State Colleges and Universities. All right. The case study provides an example of merger in higher education and demonstrate that those institutions which do not have clear, defined, and concise communicated vision and mission and well-defined and obtainable goals can have a profound negative impact on student, faculty, staff, and also educational system brought together by the restructuring. And in fact, there are also other examples about the positive part of the restructuring, but now it's just, the question was to look at on the anxiety about the negative sides of the restructuring. So I think what Prof. Kamal and the team has done with the support from all of us, with the aim to improve our education system, with a good niyat, with a positive mind, I believe that this restructuring can give positive impact to the UiTM. Okay, I will stop now. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Zakia. Now, Prof. Roslan, I'm giving you more privilege, right? Because we have been talking about SNT. Now we are giving more privilege. To start with, I would like you to also to hear, I believe the audience very much like to hear from your point of view about this reinventing and restructuring related to your faculty.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I think first of all, I'd like to thank the organizing committee for Chair for kindly inviting me to share my views in this panel session, which I feel is valuable at this point in time. I think this is where we've reached a, well, I wouldn't say turning point, but a critical pivot for the university as a whole. Now to share the views, I think my experience would be more of this thing. I think the first quote that comes to my mind, but I can't recall who exactly said it, but somehow or other when the first, what you call the idea of restructuring was mooted, I think the first phrase that came to my mind was fear of the unknown. So I think this is something that human nature always falls back on, whereby when it's the unknown, when it's dark, when you're not in familiar surroundings, you tend to have your self-doubt level, anxiety, rises to a certain point. Not far from my blood pressure actually, but anyway, that's another story. So coming back to the disciplines in art design, I'd just like to, again, being human, just to fall back. Man, I think, is a very predictable creature. We tend to fall back on history because that's our comfort zone. You're comfortable with what you've done before. So again, just to quote what some of the views expounded by Professor Zakia tadi, things like something to the effect of, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Or why reinvent the wheel? We're doing fine right now. Before I had the good fortune to join UiTM as an academic, I had also the good luck to actually have been employed at Proton in its early years, formative years, back in the late 80s, second batch actually. And interestingly enough, I think when I reflect back on that and my experience here now into the context of the restructuring, I find that collaboration is key and cross-discipline is also key. I see the restructuring of the college or school of visual arts and performing arts and all that comes into play as a micro step, because I see in the near future we have to move fast, looking at the VUCA world. Okay, there's another macro view to it. I would like very much to see, for example, some design departments in the faculty work with engineering, for example, because that's what my past historical experience was about. I was working with engineers. We had to do design drawings, which will work well. In those days, the computers were not that, hasn't reached up to a certain level, and we had to convert it into engineering drawings. And after that, we need to convert. to do the die and jigs to produce parts of the car. So it is about from the micro to the macro, and I cannot emphasize that. But then again, having said that, in art and design or the creative field, I think it's, I wouldn't say more acceptable in that sense, but the general feeling is that it will be more of like we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. If I can say that, challenges are abound. I don't think it's going to be a smooth ride. It's not going to be, there are going to be many bumps along the way. But again, in the spirit of collaboration, I think this is where it's a direction that we need to go to. So again, in the spirit of collaborative, and also historically, we talk about art and design, theatre, and also music. Okay, they've all got what you call the general roots has come from one source. So it isn't what you call, I think similar also to engineering. Okay, it isn't like a drastic, a big jump. It's just that over the years, we've all grown into our own. We've grown in size, and we've grown into what you call sub-disciplines. But I'd like to take a bit about what the previous panel mentioned about collaborative, Academy of Sciences. I've been informed actually. Academy of Sciences has also invited artists and designers into the panel as fellows. So there we can see that the spirit of collaboration to reinvent, I think is already there. I think at this point in time, it's how we're going to achieve it, which collaboratively we will do, and the speed that we're going to take. Because if we're not careful, we are going to be left behind. And I'll pause for now. Thank you.
Okay, now if I may pick up some point from the previous dialogue. Dr. Asma was talking about actually what we are talking about. New normal is not new normal, it's renew normal, right? Renew normal one. And when we're talking about reinventing, I believe we all in UiTM, we already have been reinventing, making over from ITM to UiTM. Never thought we'll be in times higher. We are now in the ranking. So we have been reinventing and making over of UiTM to now well-known, the biggest university in the world. And yet, right, we have not done enough. This is what it's been said. And we also we are talking also about, in my time of being in ITM, probably that time, the understanding is lecturer-centric. That means lecturer tell you what you should know. I never know about engineering because actually, frankly, I applied for architecture, but I was given civil engineering. All right? And with OBE, we're talking about now student-centric. Right? And Datuk Hassan Basri gave a good example about medical program. And the words here is knowledge for a working world. So far, we are talking about we have to carry out industry demand, survey industry demand to see whether the program regulate we produce is required by the university. But now it is not somehow on track. We are talking about what? 2U1, 2I1, or being 1 year. All these things now have been talking by UiTM for so long. All right? So can you, all the three panelists, share about some good example of our current practice and what is the way forward to address this? Can we start with you, Prof. Roslan?
Okay, Prof. I think to pick up what you mentioned just now about 2U1I, interestingly enough, we have a new program already running, approved a couple of years back. I mean, with the accreditation, all that, it's called the creative game design. And this is to address the, what you call the burgeoning industry on the creative side, but on games. Because as you know, right now, some of our children, when you ask them what you want to be, during my time in the 60s, in Standard 1 and all that, what do you want to be? Doctor, engineer, and so on and so forth. Now, we are not surprised if we ask the child or, well, a teenager, what do you want to be? I want to be a professional gamer. So again, you can see the change. I'm not saying all, but there is what you call the shift. Society is changing, and it has to be reflected on that. Now, coming back to the program, interestingly enough, when we went for the accreditation, we went on the structure of 2U, 1I. And I've been actively working with the program coordinators for this particular creative game design. And I can attest to this, that most of the industry players that we meet when we present our program, program structure of 2U, 1I, okay, they were all very, very excited. I can quote some of the comments that the last I went was to Level Up, a subsidiary of MDEC in Bangsa South, formerly Kerinci. They said that 1 year in the industry is actually a starting point to get what you call your graduate employability even higher, to raise that. So things that what we see here as something new, again going back to that so-called term of fear of the unknown, yeah, is actually being positively embraced by the industry. And the other thing that I think for creative industry we need to address at this point in time is that the workplace for creative industry is changing. I did mention this a few times earlier on in some other panels. Okay, that the creative industry in art and design, there is what you call another workforce called the digital nomads, whereby their office or studio is anywhere that has free Wi-Fi. So they have the meetings in either event spaces or your usual famous branded coffee shops and all that kind of stuff. But the work gets done. Okay. If you talk about the Western model, there are digital nomads who are residing in Bali, in Bangkok, in Phuket. Okay, whereby they do their work, they rent the bungalow, and they do their work online. They are design consultants for web and so on and so forth. So again, it is changing. And this is actually growing exponentially. So at this point in time, where are our graduates? Okay, will they still be seeking employment from a company? Or will they be forming their own? As what we see right now, startups and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that it's going to be 100%, but there is an obvious shift. And this is something that, again, I think the structure of 2U, 1I is addressing that. Massive open online courses and all that is only I see it as something that will enhance this environment. Okay, I think the media has been very generous to push this as the digitalization of education, of higher education. So, well, that's with the pandemic, it's accelerated the need. Okay, but at this point in time, I think that's where we can look into this thing. And interestingly enough, Prof, when you mentioned about from ITM into UiTM, I think I can share a lot of what you call, because when I came as a young lecturer here in 91, okay, it was still ITM. When I came back from my PhD in late 2000, it became UiTM. So again, change. And now the next step is collaborating for change.
Prof. Zakia, you have to add?
Because I think before that, the question is regarding what the example, the current practice that we need for the synergy. We know that the world is changing. What we planned last year is not materialized this year. Yeah, we have prepared strategic plan for 5 years, but we can see that it doesn't work sometimes, so we have to change here and there. Like during PKP, before this, we tried to sell our product to industry. It's very difficult to get them to buy our product. all right, to buy our IP. We have done a lot of research, all right. Suddenly during PKP, the industry come to us, ask for solution to help them, all right, to create new business for them. For example, doing the mask by the FKM, all right, by the cover, that mask, face mask, face shield, all right. FKM has the equipment. They have done that for small project, and suddenly during PKP, the industry wants it in a big demand, and they even able to create business out of that, all right. But that example of synergy for creating that face shield is the work between maybe FKM, FSG, all right, maybe from other faculty, to be able for the FKM or Dr. Hussein to come up with that product, all right, by using the waste product. Another example is to produce sanitizer. In our lab, we develop our own sanitizer, but we use for our own consumption. Suddenly during PKP, different faculty synergize, work together, collaborate together, FSG, Faculty of Chemical Engineering, FKA, right, and other faculty be able to come up with a new sanitizer with a good smell, not so sticky, all right, better protective, and now can be sold, and then create another business, all right. So it shows that by restructuring, proper restructuring, all right, be able to drive much better, more planned, all right, kind of collaboration and synergy. I like to give example one that very close to my heart. I think most of you know that I'm working with timber engineering. All right, we have been teaching timber design according to Malaysian code, which was developed in 2002. I was the committee in developing those standards. But the European has changed from permissible stress design to limit state design. And we are still referring to that code. Is that possible? No, we have to change our curriculum so that we follow to the new requirement now. In fact, the timber engineering or the timber industry is in the sunset right now, because there is not many areas of legal logging allowed. Malaysia used to be the largest exporter, or maybe not the largest, or the second largest exporter of tropical timber. But now we cannot rely on large diameter timber or the sawn timber anymore. So we have to change the industry, because then most of the timber industry or timber company is closing down. Even the furniture industry also closing down. So what happened to the program in FSG on the furniture? All right. So then the university has to start collaborating among us to come up with a new timber product that will be high demand to the industry, to create a new industry for the timber industry, to have our timber industry. For example, like my project right now has created 2 companies. I am not the owner, yeah, but with that product, the industry be able to create new factory. But even though we have manufacturer, the engineer and architect must be able to design. So I proposed for a new developed standards so that we can incorporate that in our curriculum when we do the teaching, and also can be used by the engineer, by the architect to design. If we have new product, no design standard, the engineer and the architect cannot refer to, therefore you cannot build using that product. So we have, but in order for me to form that task, or to develop the standards, all right, and also to develop new curriculum, I have to collaborate with FSG, because I only know how to design, but I don't know about the timber properties. So I have to work together with Prof. Nazib, yeah, from other faculty, for part of the curriculum. So this example where we can drive the new industry, to help the industry based on the work created at the university. Yeah, so that's what I think what Prof. Kamal actually aimed for. Yeah, the university is the one that drives the industry. Yeah, so from us actually, not sometimes the industry don't know what are the new product available for them to branch out their industry. Okay, so these are the things, some of the examples that we have actually in the university, how we can collaborate with the industry, how we can collaborate among us. Yeah, so even though we have different colleges later on, College of Engineering, College of Fine Arts, and then also colleges of science, maybe, I don't know what's the new name, social science. So we can also develop new program by combining College of Engineering and also College of Sciences. Yeah, for example, like my aim is actually before I retire in the next 3 years, I want to develop a new program which is called Bachelor Technology in Timber Engineering, but the curriculum must come from FSG, must come from civil engineering and also from manufacturing. For example, like the one that, the company that producing one of my product in Sabah now, which is called cross-laminated timber, they have all machine, all right? But that machine is not powerful enough to produce a large size specimen or large size product panel. So we need lecturers from manufacturing section to help this company to improve their machinery. So here is where we have, the capability, if we synergize together, collaborate together, and actually we can improve the life of the, not only the UiTM, but also for the industry.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think just like to, again, to add on, to enhance, to augment what Professor Zakia mentioned just now about the spirit of collaboration. It's already happening. Mungkin in bits and pieces, but it's already starting. I'll just share with you, okay, like for example, in our faculty, our textile design department, we are running already, two batches already, yeah? Double degree. So that means for 2 years, they'll be in FSG. And they'll have a degree in science. Then 2 years and 2.5 years, they come to art and design and do textile design. So for the industry, what is more, what you call attractive, when you get a graduate that comes with a degree in design and a degree in science. So again, we're producing what you call a new, well, I would say hybrid, but again, what the industry don't know, we assume, I mean, in this point in time, the pandemic, the industry is going to be pleasantly surprised that, okay, oh, you've got a double degree graduate. And from what is seen, perceived in the public as quite contrasting spectrum from the design, from arts, and from science. And yet we're able to produce this. I mean, we've yet to see the results, but every semester our intake is increasing. I mean, for that particular double degree programs. So, and I'm sure this is also happening in a lot of other faculties at this point in time. So this can only be a good start, inshallah.
Okay, Prof. Kamal, as a TNCA, at the current approach of restructuring, present restructuring, what have you captured from overall perspective of all head of department that probably they can hear, and something that later on we address our last question?
Well, I can tell you where it is not an easy job.
To everybody, yeah?
I was tasked by the board to spearhead the restructuring project on the realization of the importance of the restructuring. I mean, I have to be very frank, I deliberately avoid talking about cost concern is the reason for the restructuring, because there are other major concerns that I should be talking about besides just the cost. And of course, cost is one of the expectations out of this restructuring, lean management, sharing of resources and whatnot. Okay? But the point I would like to bring up is this, as mentioned by Prof. Zakia, mentioned by Prof. Ruslan, we are so comfortable in the zone that we are in at the moment. We know how to chart our pathway within the zone that we are in. And naturally, when we are thrown into an area that we're not familiar, we have to reconstruct our formula on how to move forward with our career. Perhaps that is the biggest concern by all the faculty members as to why I am resisting or I am having a second thought about this restructuring. But the whole point is it boils down to one thing, is leadership. The leaders of the university will have to give an assurance that the restructuring will in no way jeopardize the strength that you already have now. What we are looking for is creating a new strength. So whoever is being tasked to lead this project or a PNC for that college must consciously have this in mind all the time, that I am not going to jeopardize any strength that is already there, but I am going to try to start curate the strength of one person and another person, one department and another department, to create a new strength. So leadership is key in ensuring the success of this restructuring. They have to be very mindful, they have to be very conscious, they have to be on the ground all the time and feel the ground and carry all those people who are going to make this work. Okay. Now, the thing about this is there is an ultimate goal at the end of the day. As I've mentioned from the very beginning, the university's relevance, which is translated into its credibility, is the ultimate goal. So it is not about personal goal. In fact, this personal goal will be very dependent on the ultimate goal of the organization. If you make the organization irrelevant, no longer credible, your personal goal doesn't matter because the organization cannot support your personal goals. You have to support the organizational goals in order to materialize your personal goals in the university. So that's a point that I think that we all have as learned individual, conscious individual, have to realize. And that's a whole key about making this thing a success. So I want to quote what my sister Dato' Asma mentioned just now. Yeah, this is a progressing country, a country that direly needs knowledge, innovation to drive our economic capability forward for the benefit of the ummah, of the people of our country. Okay? Now the only way forward is not to buy technologies from outside, be a consumer. You have to be a producer. Okay? Now industries are where they are because of that knowledge they have. If the industries are enriched with the knowledge that the university has, chances is that the industry will move forward. The industry will move to the next level. That's what happened to all the startups at Stanford. Startup at Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley and Stanford are interdependent. My company is operating at this level now because I'm engaging with a research project from the university. But I can push my company to the next level with the new knowledge that is being delivered by the university. So I am constantly looking for opportunities of knowledge and innovation that's available in the university to push my industry, my startup forward. Likewise, when you were talking about 2U2I, when you were talking about the industries are coming, you could imagine that the industry are hungry for innovation and knowledge, and they are willing to co-invest with the university to move themselves forward. And when they move themselves forward, they pay more tax, the country will move forward. As what mentioned by Dato' Asma, we are looking at the university being relevant in pushing our industry to the next level. That's the opportunity we are looking for. And the only way, as we all know, industries work is that single discipline cannot move the industry. If I were to construct, if I were to have a product, I'm going to have to talk about its technology. I'm going to have to talk about its marketplace, market positioning. I have to handle the brand positioning. I need all areas here. And if the university is structured in such a way, okay, you want technology, you go to Prof. Zakia. You want market branding or market positioning, you go to this faculty. Nobody wants to do that. You know, but if the industries are able to say, okay, this is a center where I can come to, I resolve my issues of product branding, market positioning, not to mention the technology and the aesthetic value that contributes to the economic value of the product, you are more attractive than the other universities that cannot provide that platform. So those are the elements that would attract the co-investment of universities. In fact, as mentioned, we may not even have to build the lab in our university because there is a company who wants to co-invest using their labs and their facilities. So this restructuring is all about positioning the university to become credible institution and therefore relevant so that we can sustain our existence for the future. That's all, the whole bottom line. Yeah. Are we going to deal, realistically, are we going to deal with cultural issues? Yes, we are. That's where leadership comes in. And I've mentioned this many times. The amazing thing with academicians is that if you ask them to do something, they will ask you why they have to do it. The minute they are convinced, they will do it 10 times better than you expected. That's one thing good about academician, right? So that's me. We are collegial, you know. All right.
Okay, bro. Since you've been tasked to spearhead, all right. What will be your advice to the audience, which they are all head of department, academic department, and also I've been told that this session is being viewed through Facebook. Right. So we may have also the academic leaders out there from UiTM.
Well, you know, keep an open mind, be receptive, always have the belief that I alone with one knowledge, perhaps I create my value, but if I were to combine with somebody else's knowledge, I can create a better value. And I'll move towards that position as one. An open mind, be intellectual, keep the intellectual thinking, and be receptive and be a good listener. Rather than just wanting to listen to what you want to say, perhaps colleagues who have got another ideas deserve your listening. You know, I mean, you listen. I think, and perhaps also try to learn as much as possible from things that has happened. COVID is something that really have opened up our eyes. You can't work alone. I try to deliver things through the traditional approach. I may have the content, but I don't have the means. I'm going to have to get someone who's much younger than me to help me to deliver my things, because now it is being delivered in a more modern way, which I'm basically not very familiar with. Okay, see, the thing is, I did talk to some students, and they came to me and say, Prof, when it comes to learning, when you tell me go and get engineering degree so that you become an engineer, your words doesn't make sense to me. And I said, why am I not making any sense to you? Because we are not you don't define my end state. I will define my end state. What do I seek for when I come to a university is not what you're going to tell me what to become. What I seek for when I come to university is the kind of learning experience that you can provide to me. The kind of exposure, excitement that you can provide to me so that I can identify my potential. Those courses are just means for me to identify my potential. And when I can identify my potential, I find ways and means how the university nurture this potential. and I will decide what to become with the potential that I can, and I'll unleash it. This is a kind of mindset that never occurs to me when I was a student at all. When I was a student, I said, people, what do you want to become? I don't know. Doctor, engineer, lawyer, I don't know. You know, but the millennials are thinking differently. So my tip is that while you are thinking this way, the millennials are thinking totally differently from you. Keep an open mind. Listen to them, and perhaps that will help you to formulate your deliveries and shape your mind into accepting change. That's my advice.
Okay,
Long advice.
Thank you, bro. Now, talking about synergistic collaborative, both Prof. Zakia and Prof. Roshan have mentioned your achievement in significant collaboration with the industry. And I would like to pose this question, but before that, allow me to just give some what I have experienced about the way this KAIS, one of top 10 engineering faculty in the times higher, the way they did their synergistic collaboration, right? They work with the industry, with the manufacturer, but they are not the one doing it. The new student is only going in part into new knowledge, and the product, all right, was made, fabricated by industry. So there was a case when they went to produce this new technology, how to measure stress in the ground, to the ground. From the work paper, the industry fabricate the equipment, and they run it at the lab, in situ, on the real ground. This professor and his PhD student observed the work, and they told the manufacturer, the industry, this is not what I want. I want this. How to do it? You go and do it. So they're able to produce the product in a very short time, and now it's in market. But the way we are doing here, for example, we have to do everything ourselves. So if I want to automate my equipment that I produce, I have to learn about some electricity methods. All right, from A to Z, which at the end I just give up with it. But there is also another case. The researcher wants to automate his conventional equipment. You know what they did? The faculty recruit electrical lecturer work in their faculty, in their department, to assist all the product to be automated immediately and produce the product quickly. But are we ready for that? Right? So with that significant achievement by Professor Zakia and Prof. Roslan, I would like to share your advice to your peers here. Silakan Prof. Zakia.
Okay, this is very tough to advise where they are also good in what they are doing, but just sharing my experience, so that if it is you can follow or it is good to be shared and you can use it in your research or in your work, please do. Now, when I first embarked on my research on timber engineering, there are not many universities are working on that. So that's one of the points that I want to highlight. We have to do a lot of research, a lot of study to see the areas that many people are working on. All right? But at the same time, if that area not many people are working on, it will be also difficult for you, because you alone is not enough. Your knowledge is not enough to come up with a new product. You need somebody else also to help. For example, if I want to work on glue laminated timber, again, a new company has emerged from the research. So we have received royalty from that company. For 3 years, then they stopped paying because at that time I'm so silly, I didn't write proper agreement with the company. Okay, so in order for me to produce glue laminated timber, I know how to design, all right? Timber structure, I know how to design the beam, I know how to design the column by following certain standards. But the standards on timber European and timber Malaysia are not the same. Yeah, they have different characteristics. So I cannot 100% follow that standards. So in order for me to come up with the strength properties, in order for engineers to design, I have to produce the glue lamp, but at the same time, I need to understand the behavior of the timber. I need to recognize the species of the timber. I need to know whether the timber can bond with certain glue or not, whether the glue will emit formaldehyde or not. I am not chemist. I'm not wood scientist. So I have to work with people who have this knowledge. So I have to search who are they that can help me with the new product. For example, in FSG last time, we have lecturers who knows about wood science, but they have no experience in producing glue laminated timber. All right? So we work together. We have to enhance our knowledge together until the product be able to produce the product and the market be able to take up that product. And the product also have been, there are structures have used our product even in Milan. Yeah, even in Milan. Even in Malaysia, we have 8 buildings actually using the product that we research based in UiTM. All right, so again, synergy, trust our collaborator. We have to trust our collaborator. And then also, we have to get the industry believe in us. They have to believe in us. Yeah, the first time they invest, we have produced the results on time. All right, they will come again. Yeah, and at the same time, our knowledge cannot be kept ourselves. We have to start mentoring our junior lecturers. We have to start adding more PhD students so that the knowledge can be expanded. Yeah. If possible, not only taking the student from our faculty alone, but we also have to get students from other faculties so that they have the same interest. And also we have to get students from overseas so that they learn about our timber, so that we can, the product that we produce in Malaysia, if they are working over there, they may import our product if they don't have the factory over there. So these are the things. We cannot just think within our faculty. We have to also work together with other faculty. We also have to work with industry, not only locally but also overseas, to expand the knowledge, to expand our commercial product, all right, so that everybody will benefit. Not only Malaysia benefit, the industry benefit, our student benefit. UiTM gain the name, yeah. Of course, we have our own name on that. But at the same time, with the product that I produce, we develop standards. And the standards are not only for Malaysia, we also involved in ISO standard. And the product also now has been accredited by European. Hopefully, in the future, the strength properties that we publish can be incorporated in European standards. So we expand. So the overseas, the European can also import our timber because our timber is very strong. So the aim is not just stop within the UiTM, but we have to go also nationally and also internationally. So you have to set the target. You have to set the target. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
I think
okay,
that's
thank you. Before I've been reminded about the time constraint, Prof. Roslan, but in short, before we go to the Q&A session, in short, would you like to add about your experience on this synergic collaboration?
I think Prof. Zakia has expanded, and there's a lot of similarities in talking about art and design also, because again, when you say in art and design, we have the visual arts and the performing arts, and we have quite a wide spectrum. But if you're talking about design in terms of mass production, all that, I think it's again very, very relevant. I think well, I wouldn't call it a mantra, but what you call the saying that's most appropriate right now, I think would be quoted by the classical artist. Like, please excuse my history. Ancora imparo. That means yet I am learning. I think the spirit of wanting to learn new, I don't want to say new, but to learn new, the seeking of new knowledge is a constant. You can never, as you mentioned just now during the ITM days, whereby if the lecturer is the Sifu or the know-it-all, in 2020, not applicable. Okay? We are here, as mentioned by Prof. Kamal, guide, aid, to point the students right now, because the mindset, again, is different. What's the learning experience, the learning outcomes? So I think the constant learning too is applicable at every level. What Prof. Zakia mentioned just now about seeking, working with the industry, I think is very, very relevant. Sometimes when we see the word, when we see the term community here as academics, we straight away think about community as in the society, the general public. But actually, community also stands for the industry players, the manufacturers, so on and so forth. Again, when I was fortunate enough to have that short working stint in Proton many, many years ago, I was already exposed to the so-called ecosystem of manufacturing processes, whereby you talk about new product development, which is very, very critical, testing, evaluation, all that, and only at the end of the day, it's really made fit to go out for the consumers. So a lot of work goes through, and again, it is a collaborative work. At the R&D department that I was in, okay, we had a group of designers and also a group of engineers, mechanical, aerospace, graduates from all that, so it all came into play. So again, it's a constant learning process, and I think even until today, I am still learning. So I think that's something I'd like to just share with everyone. It's a constant, and I think that's something we shouldn't take it that, I'm at this phase of my life, therefore I know 99% is in my body of knowledge. There's a lot of new things that's coming along the way, and I think the more ready we are to accept that, I think the further we'll go, inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Prof. San. Now, I should read the questions posted in this, is it appear there? Not yet, huh? Repeated twice, it appeared twice, these very interesting questions. And in fact, I was once asked by one of these IPT that has undergone restructuring. Right? They asked me why UiTM now has to go for restructuring, but I didn't answer because I'm already retired. This question repeated twice. According to the Harvard Business Review, between 70 and 90% of mergers and acquisitions fail. Have we measured the risk of our restructuring? So I think automatically, I think it has to be our TNCA to answer.
You fail when you decide to fail. When you plan to fail, you will fail. The merging of culture is the most challenging cause for any restructuring. And culture rests on the people. And if the people are subscribing to one belief and refuse to move from that belief, is when the collision of culture happens. We don't expect that from learned individuals, educated individuals who are constantly facing the challenges of changing your culture in order to make yourself relevant, because you are facing the students who come with a different background, different cultural, different beliefs, and your credibility actually, and your stance as a good academician is your ability to handle this diversity of culture. So we perhaps seek that part of you, or that part of us, I shouldn't say you, us, in ensuring that the organization will stand against the challenges that has been subjected to it. Okay? Economic funding issues is real. Competition is real. relevance is real for the organization. And acceptance by the public who are funding us is also real. These are the stakeholders. And these are the challenges that will be posed on you, and the choice is basically on us, whether to make it happen or not happen. Okay? While that experience may say that it fails, I'm always, if I want to make it happen, I always look at the successful one. I don't bother to look at the one that fails. I may learn. I may take the trouble to learn why they fail. But then my point is, I'm going to make it successful. So I don't want to be concerned about those who fail. I just want to be influenced by those who have succeeded. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. There is a question I think have been answered by the panel, so I wouldn't address it again. And this is one question talking about the idea of creating synergy between various fields and faculties is good and welcome. But how do we ensure ranking of faculties be affected through the restructuring? Anybody like to answer? Yeah. I think it's not fake. The question goes to Prof. Kamal many times.
All right. Ranking depends on the overall work by the whole community in UiTM. It's not individualistic. Like THE, yeah, QS ranking mainly based on subject. All right, the subject is still maintained. Maybe we have a new program, but the existing program, it is still relevant, it's still important, because we are the one who mentioned what subject that we want to, what are the list of subjects in the ranking. So if it is relevant to us, that's the one that we will opt and work for. All right, but in terms of university ranking, is actually the work from individual, everybody in UiTM. Everybody on UiTM, not even a single one that's missing. Even now, even we are not restructuring in the faculty, individual faculty, the marks comes from all that, but even to drive the ranking from individual faculty is also difficult at this moment. Maybe by restructuring, this is what I'm thinking, yeah? We can come out with a new, more number of research, more number of grant, because we collaborate, we know each other's strength now. Right now, in our meeting, I only discuss about water, I only discuss about geotechnical, I only discuss about construction management and structure. But if, let's say, all the engineering comes under the college, the meeting will discuss all areas in the engineering, all right? So we have meeting all together, we develop curriculum at the same time, we talk about grant at the same time, we talk about writing papers at the same time. So the the new research can come out, and then because right now we want, I write one, you write one, you have my name, I have your name. So each of us have to write. Now if I have also with other faculty, now I can expand my writing capability, my writing partner, not only between structure and also geotechnical structure and construction management. Now I can write between structure and electrical, structure and chemical, structure and others. Because more people we can brainstorm together can actually emerge new things. Hopefully it will work as what Prof. Kamal wants, the university wants. Yeah, it's not easy, definitely, as what mentioned, the culture are different, but if everybody has the same niyat, I think it will just fine. It will just fine. Of course, I will show you an example. All right, in United States, yeah, Cohen et al. Reviewed the initial failures and analyze factors responsible for the relative success of the restructuring of academic hospital system in 1997. Yeah? In the paper, they explain the tactics in developing a set of principles continued guidance of the restructure and discussed the future strategy for the structured organization. After 3 years, they found out that, they discovered that the single chairperson model for department leadership was the most successful in achieving major clinical integration of the previously detached department. All right. So from before this, they are separated, but when they combine together, they are advanced much further. Yeah. So the skills of leaders to act as a team and lead the change process was the most vital factor for the attainment of a sensible level of integration. All right. I have more actually. In here, I have 4 or 5 successful merging of successful restructuring. That's why what Prof. Kamal said. This is not immediate, the effect is not so immediate. Of course, along the way, there will be some resistance. Even in the faculty, if you have new ideas coming in, new programs to coming in, definitely there will be some resistance, but with a good management, it will come up. Yeah? It will be done. It will be done. So as what mentioned in this example, after 3 years, they can see the results. So it's not immediate. You form today, suddenly tomorrow, you want to see the success of that.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Zakia. I think to be fair, I need to read these 2 points from the floor. One is point to ponder about probably no longer by faculty, maybe by discipline. So it's a suggestion. By discipline, merger, restructuring by discipline instead of by faculty. Right? And another point I think could be relevant, I believe this from the academia. When will HEA inform faculties on the merger? Best to inform us than keeping us in the dark. I'm not sure because I think I did attended Prof. Zakia the briefing about the merging, and lecturers need to strategize too. That means they are accepting these restructuring ideas. We don't need to comment about this, it's just a point for thought. So I think thank you very much to all 3 panels. We are at the end of the dialogue 3. Let us put our hand together as our appreciation. All right, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Datin. And thank you very much to the panel dialogue number 3. Ladies and gentlemen, praise to Allah, for we have come to the end of our first half of the conference. Before we go for lunch, here are a few important reminders. Participants are reminded to complete the feedback form via QR code provided on your table. Secondly, we would like to invite everyone to come over to our exhibition booth located at the lobby. Deans and rectors, lunch will be served at the foyer, while for the rest of the participants, lunch is located at BL level. Please help yourself to the signage available for the direction to the prayer room situated at the designated level of this building. Please also be reminded that our next session will commence at 2 p.m. Most importantly, please observe the SOP and maintain social distancing at all times. Yeah? And on that note, I would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Professor Technologist Dr. Haji Muhammad Kamal Haji Harun, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and International of UiTM, accompanied by Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Haja Nur Azia Haji Alias, Director of Academic Development, UiTM, and Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Zakia Ahmad, Dean of Faculty of Civil Engineering, to the lunch at the lobby.